Welcome to Shardcast, the Brandon Sanderson podcast. We're a bunch of mega fans giving you the news, discussion, and of course, a whole lot of opinions about Brandon's works and the Cosmere. I'm Eric, and joining me is Ian.
Hey, I'm your writer.
Also joining us is David.
Hey, I am Windrunner.
Welcome. We also got Ben.
Hello, I am Overlord Jebus. And do I do show and tell now or after?
Show and tell now. Yeah.
Show and tell now. So I finally finished collecting the Mistborn 10-year British.
Oh yeah. Jess has those. Yeah.
So this is these are the 10-year hardbacks that they released, which have got this nice, you can see, shiny gloss to them.
Only through Golansk.
Only through Golansk. So I think I guess European and thing, and I guess Australian as well.
Oh yeah. I didn't realize it with a 10-year. Like I've seen them and have them, but I just thought, hey, look, pretty books, and didn't even think about when they could have potentially been released.
I'm pretty sure they were to celebrate the 10-year anniversary.
They were.
Yeah.
They were.
Yeah.
Trust you on that.
Wow.
They definitely have the 10-year text inside for sure.
Yeah. And they didn't. So one of my main complaints about the standard versions was that the Hero of Ages cover is just a zoomed in version of the, and I think they've kind of done it again, and I can't tell if it's a joke at this point because you've got Vin on the cover, but she's absolutely tiny. And then you've got Vin on the cover.
At least that's like a very dramatic difference, right? Whereas the regular UK covers, it's literally like
it was like that.
Yeah, and then it's just like way zoomed in, and like you can really obviously tell. Yeah.
Yes.
Cool.
Are yours different colors, like slightly different colors? Because Shal noticed this, how like I think as well of Ascension is very slightly different on the spine. And now that she's pointed it out, I can't not see it. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, you can see how. Yeah, and it really bothers me because Hero of Ages looks like the Final Empire. So clearly,
at least it's symmetrical. You know, you got that going for you.
Yeah, rather than just one being different on an end. Yeah.
It's like they saw their problem and fixed it, but guys.
Yeah, but there's other differences, like the Brandon Sanderson of the Final Empire is gold, and then it's white on the. You can see it's not shiny. It's just white.
Yeah, you'd really think that if it's like an anniversary thing, that you'd have a style and you just keep doing that style.
You just
I don't
stick
know.
to it, yeah.
I swear to God, if Brandon starts changing styles for the stormlight leather bounds, I will be upset.
You will actually riot.
I'll be a bit miffed. Just a bit miffed.
Just a bit miffed.
Don't do that. Don't do that, Brandon.
Specifically so that they wouldn't need to do that. Also joining us is Jess. Hey! Hi, darling.
Hello, I'm Lady Lameness.
Hello. Also, those books that Ben was having is in the background of...
Oh, hey, they totally are. I thought they were up with you, but we have them up there as well. They're pretty.
Yeah, they're nice.
They're nice books. They'll be replacing the ones I had on the set before, the white ones.
Nice.
So I'm happy.
Yeah, we have like a nice bookcase downstairs that has all of the like actual nice hardcovers, because everywhere outside of the US actually understands that a hardcover is meant to be a nice book and not just a book.
Shade.
Jess does not like dust covers at all. You really do not like dust covers.
I've had some big rants about American hardcover books, let's say.
Yeah. Well, we are not talking at all about Mistborn today. Not even a little bit. But so there's your Mistborn if you want. But what we are going to do, we realized we have never done an episode on Kaladin. So we should probably do an episode on Kaladin. So Rhythm of War spoilers, all Stormlight spoilers. Yup. And we're just gonna go in it. And so maybe, I mean, we've talked a lot about Kaladin on the show, but not like a dedicated episode on Kaladin, right? So what do you all feel about Kaladin in a general sense? Like, let's start way back. What do you feel about Kaladin?
He's all right.
He's pretty cool.
He is the angsty sad boy with the tragic backstory Hence, I absolutely love him.
He's the character I think about the least, but when I'm reading the books, he's probably the one I enjoy the most. Whenever I read it, I'm like, man, Kaladin's the dude. And then I'm all like, we go to theorizing about Shallan and Dalinar.
When I first read Way of Kings, I had a lot of trouble getting into it because there's just such a learning curve at the start of the book. And it was Kaladin's storyline that dragged me through to a point where I could go, okay, I'm okay now. I know what's going on, and have a vague understanding of who was who in the main character list. But yeah, it was Kaladin's storyline that did that for me in Way of Kings. And if it hadn't been there, if I hadn't connected with it so well, I don't know if I could have pushed through that book.
Yeah, I feel like Shallan is more interesting to theorize about because there's still so many mysteries, whereas like Kaladin, there's not more mysteries about his past. I mean, there's like some stuff with Terra. We don't know about some of the slaves that he freed other than...
What about his mom?
Well, that's true. Athena's great.
But like, that's not a mystery about
so great.
Fair.
Yeah.
It's like,
fair.
We like the things we don't know about Kaladin aren't the important thing.
Oh, for sure.
It's like, yes, like there's more about Tara, there's more about his time in slavery, but like those aren't super, like we know the things we need to know to understand Kaladin's character.
We got the
They're
full
not
backstory
mysteries
first.
about like who he is. It's not like Dalinar or Shallan where we had to find out more about their past. Kaladin's flashbacks are great and give him a backstory, but we pretty much know who he is up front from the beginning.
Yeah.
Nobody's looking for a novella about the previous 9 slavery escape attempts from Kaladin.
Stormlight 0.5.
That sounds so depressing.
Yeah, it'd be rough. I like, very similar to Jess, like really, really connected with Kaladin as a character reading Way of Kings the first time, and was definitely the character I was most interested in reading about. And then I learned that they were like, okay, he's not going to be the main character for the rest of the series, and I did not like that. But fortunately, he still secretly was kind of the main character.
Yeah.
No, don't tell them that. We'll get all of the hate.
I mean, he's definitely had big arcs in really everything except Oathbringer. Like, he didn't get an ideal in Oathbringer, and so we needed to deal with that in Rhythm of War, right?
But he almost got one, so I really wouldn't say that he didn't get a big arc in Oathbringer, because I think he completely did. It may not have been as many words, but his arc in Oathbringer is still really distinct.
Oh yeah,
it was. His Oathbringer arc was a failure arc. It was I mean, just like a lot of the characters, like Shallan as well. They had a lot of trying to do things and failing. And
it's like Stormlight is an ensemble cast, very much. But if you had to boil it down to who is the main character, it is Kaladin, based off of how everything has been structured, the amount of time he's gotten, and you kind of need that for even large ensemble shows. Like we need the anchor point, and Kaladin is the anchor point for
Swear an Oath, save the day. Let's go.
Yeah. I think I've only ever seen one show that actually started like that. It had the anchor point, and then that person left, and it actually fell into a really nice rhythm where there wasn't really an anchor point anymore, and it was just an ensemble show. And it was fascinating to see, because they clearly weren't going for that initially. And I'd see it's Criminal Minds. It's the only show I've seen that has actually made that work.
I had a different show in mind. I was thinking Orange is the New Black, where after the main character was basically dropped because every other side character is way more interesting.
I've heard that about that show.
You're not wrong. I don't think I ever got to that point, but
But it's definitely harder to do that than
very much so.
Yeah. I feel like maybe back half Kaladin's not going to be the guy, you know?
I would really enjoy that. As much as I like Kaladin, I am kind of ready for Kaladin to actually take the backseat.
Yeah.
I think whatever conflicts he has going forward after book 5 are going to have to be something very different. Like, where it can't be Kaladin powers up and overcomes a personal difficulty and wins the fight. Like, it's got like Kaladin's got to have a different sort of challenge going forward.
Yeah.
Kaladin just like really throws himself into be like a good therapist and like restructuring psychology on Roshar, and we just see him in the background occasionally like doing his thing, walking around with his patients, having a good time, and that's it. Like that's his story from then on out.
Yeah.
I mean, so many of my
Syl too.
Yeah,
Syl too,
that's the problem is we'll lose Syl as well.
Well,
lose still as his wife.
Yeah. So many of my book 5 theories have Kaladin not making it to the back 5, either because he dies or he becomes a herald and is just missing for the vast majority of the second half.
I mean, that would solve
like
the problem. He is not the guy if that happens.
And so in my head, I'm just kind of like, I almost feel it's more likely he won't even make it to the second half than him taking a backseat. But that'll be a bold choice to have like the main character of your series just disappear halfway through. So.
But it is convenient if Brandon can do that, because it does kind of solve this problem. But yeah, I don't know how I feel about that. I also kind of agree. I think he's going to die, but at the same point, like, I think that is a little cliche because it feels like it'd be like Kaladin reaches the 5th Oath, whatever that is, and like heroic noble sacrifice, and then he's dead. And Brad is very good at spinning the cliche and making it good. It's just hard for me to think about it now without feeling disappointed that that's the way Brandon would go.
Yeah. Yeah, it's knowing from a meta perspective that at one point Brandon was planning for Kaladin to get 2 flashback books.
Yeah, that's what he briefly said that in Way of Kings, is like, well, I don't have another one planned, but maybe I can fit another one in. Things like that.
Which I was there for at the time.
Like, before like we really got the concrete, like these are the 10 flashback sequences. There was a wide variety of possibilities, including Kaladin getting a second book. So it's like knowing that, but it's like, okay, like that's not happening. Would Kaladin still have been alive for that book? I don't know. Like, it's the weird wibbly wobbly timey wimey. What could have been? How does that translate to what will be?
Given the flashbacks in Rhythm of War, like, you know, they were pretty good. I hope Brennan doesn't really go for a dead character flashback arc again. Like, it was fine, but there was a certain amount of tension lost in terms of us knowing Eshonai was dead. Like, and I see that as a common opinion that people have, where they're just like I enjoyed them for what they were, but there are people who are like, that was a lot of time spent on a character that has literally no future in this story.
Yeah. I think it also hurt because we got, like, Brandon moved a lot of the listener stuff to Words of Radiance, and like originally the 4th flashback book was going to like delve into that culture, so it like just wasn't as revelatory in many ways.
It took a lot of the wind out of the sails with it. Like, I think it made a great difference in Words of Radiance, but it came at the expense of these flashbacks.
Of Rhythm of War, yeah, because there was a few reasons why those Eshonai and Bentley flashbacks were as good as the previous ones, and I hope he's kind of learned those lessons and won't do something similar where it's a character we've already explored a lot of. Like, you know, if Yasna dies in like book 6 and it's like, okay, cool, we don't know anything about her, you know, her previous life, but
like, yeah, that could be cool, right? Or like a herald, if a herald dies, and still seeing the flashbacks will be awesome, right? Like, it just would be really sweet. That said, I do still want heralds to be heraldy, so I was like, I at least want one herald who's alive, who we see herald flashbacks, and then they're awesome, right?
Luckily, we got 2. So
you
can kill one. Easy peasy.
Yeah. But
I want Kalak flashbacks. That's what I really want now. The Rhythm of War. I'm like, oh my god, that guy's amazing. I love
Kalak's
him.
Great. So, what did you think of Kaladin specifically in Rhythm of War? Because this is the time when we're recording this. Maybe cued after book 5, where it's like, let's do a Kaladin podcast again. I'm sure that'll happen, but
at least it'll be more self-contained. We're like, okay, we don't have to touch the other 4 books very much. Yeah. 5th book, let's go.
Yep. So how was Rhythm of War Kaladin for you guys?
It was tough.
Yep, it was.
Because I don't have depression. I'm a lot like Brandon, where I don't really have the low lows or the super high highs. I'm just fine most of the time. So Kaladin has been very interesting to read about from the depression angle, and this book really shows when you're in a dark place just how dark it can be and how difficult that can be.
Yeah,
and you just have to keep going and how hard that is.
Mm-hmm. Which could be kind of a double-edged sword in that, it's I enjoy and appreciate that Brandon portrays that side of things, and I understand why it might get a little bit either difficult or tiresome for some people. And even as somebody who relates a lot of the time with Kaladin struggles, there are times where I'm like, could this have been condensed, or could this have the same impact have been reached in potentially a denser section of Kaladin chapters? Because he did get a lot still, even given that it was Navani's book, really.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he had a big arc in Rhythm of War, and no doubt it was Navani and Kaladin, and almost to Venli's expense in a way, but
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, yeah. When it comes to his depression stuff, so I'm also the same as I've never had depression or anything like that. But what I found is that when I first read Way of Kings, I didn't even notice he had depression. I had to have it pointed out to me. I was just like, oh man, that guy's sad a lot. And so having it, what I like is that it keeps coming back, but portraying that way that depression doesn't just go away. It hasn't got a quick fix. It's something that stays with you. From a narrative perspective, it affects him in different ways in certain situations, if that makes sense. So his goals that he had in Rhythm of War were uniquely affected by that in ways that he hadn't been affected. Well, it was kind of similar to the Slay stuff in Way of Kings, but seeing the growth of Kaladin from that Way of Kings guy to how he's reacting to these kind of similar situations in Rhythm of War, it's he gets up, and he always is the guy who gets up, but in Rhythm of War, he doesn't have anyone, and he still gets up and goes out and does what he needs to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I really liked him in York.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point, Ben, because it is kind of like the slave stuff. But it occurs to me, we never really dealt with Kaladin's depression. It's just he was no longer a bridgeman or a slave, and then other stuff happened for a while, and so he never really truly dealt with that. And so that's what this book is, right? In actually dealing with that in a very dark situation, right?
One of the scenes that really jumps out to me in regards to Kaladin finally having to deal with this is the one where Dalinar basically lets him go as a soldier and has to say, you need to step back. And I think that that's a really good culmination of everything that's happened up to this point, because they've been in this war, this situation where you just have to keep pushing. And now that they've finally got a bit of a reprieve, Kaladin actually needs to deal with this. And I love that Dalinar can see that. And it makes so much sense. He's been doing this for so long that of course he's going to notice it, but he noticed when he needed to step in as well. So it makes sense to me that Kaladin hasn't really dealt with his depression up till now, but is now being forced to actually confront something that he's had since childhood and never worked on or worked towards trying to help himself or develop coping mechanisms, because his coping mechanisms are real bad. Like really bad. They're like, oh gosh, there's like this scene in Oathbringer where it is like almost in awe of Shallan being able to suppress
words of radiance. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I thought
The
that
she
was
smiles anyway.
It's in both, actually.
Anyway.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh no, Kaladin, no, that's so bad for you. Please do not follow Shallan's examples here.
This is the
She
worst
needs to work
example
on her own coping mechanisms. Don't like take her bad habits.
Like, I'm taking notes of Shallan. It's like, oh no, don't do that.
No.
I really liked Kaladin's portrayal of depression in this book because, I mean, depression affects different people differently. And this was the first book for me where Kaladin's depression really matched like my experiences with depression, because my experiences with depression, it's very linked with suicidal ideation. And that doesn't happen for everyone. I would not wish it on anyone. It's not fun. Like, Kaladin didn't really have that too much in the earlier books. Like, there was honor chasm, but like, I guess just the way it was written, it didn't like speak to me as much as in Rhythm of War, where really like feeling the void. Thank you, Brandon, for a great description of the void. That it's like, well, that fits depression real well. It's just an endless void that you can't get out of, really. And so Rhythm of War really worked for me. And like seeing the scene with Tien at the end was just so emotional to me. It's like, well, you're not perfect, but you're good enough for me, right? And like that's one of those things as a depressed individual that like someone can say to you, no, you are good enough for me. And it's like, it is so hard to actually internalize that is true, right? Because with depression, your brain is essentially lying to you and whispering things to you that are false, that you're worthless and things, and that you can't do it. And what's the point of moving on, right? So that scene was very powerful for me. So it's like a great way of like using the magic to deal with this real world issue. And it definitely clicked for me much better than Kaladin did in the past. And Brandon's saying, oh yeah, a lot of people like get Kaladin's depression and they think it's great representation. And before Rhythm of War, I would say it's like, well, that doesn't match my experience. Like, totally great if that, fit great for you, of course. But this was the book where it really fit well for me. And I really, really, really liked Kaladin's arc because of it. Though it is very dark and difficult to read, no doubt.
Yeah.
And so, like, for some people, like, it might hit too close to home.
Yeah.
And so, like, that, yes, it's very good. But for somebody going through that, not everybody wants to experience that in their. So it is a give and take. It's like, it's very accurate, which is either a good thing or a bad thing.
If you're going through that, it's like, I don't know if you're going to like this book.
It's okay to take a pause. It's okay to put a book down and come back to it a little later.
Yep.
Definitely. So I watched a video essay on YouTube a couple of months ago, and it's deals with mental health and media. And ever since we've decided, yes, we're going to do this episode, like, oh God, I can't wait to bring this video essay up. It's by Hello Future Me, who actually does a lot of community mental health work. And he goes through the idea of different audiences, and watching this video, I was definitely like, oh, this makes so much sense in like Rhythm of War and the reactions we've had. And he talks about how there's often two different types of audiences that you're trying to talk to. Sometimes just one, sometimes the other, but they're normally both still there. One of them is people who generally don't deal with mental illness issues, and the goal in that case is you're trying to inform them, you're trying to give them information on this is what it could be like. And then you have the other audience that does deal with mental health issues, and you're trying to give them something that they can relate to, whether it be characters or situations, so that they can feel seen in the media that they are reading, watching, whatever. And problems often arise when you've got these two groups, but you're only trying to really cater to one of them. And I think Brandon actually falls a bit more in the middle, where he's trying to cater to people who don't have mental health issues and give them information, but also give people characters that are realistic enough that they can relate to themselves. And I think Rhythm of War, that there seems to have been two different reactions that I've seen to Rhythm of War. There's people who don't have mental health issues, but think Rhythm of War got too dark and
tough to get
along
through.
the lines. Yeah, it's like, I don't want to read this. This isn't fun. But then, of course, you've got people who do deal with this. It's like, well, this is what it's like. This is realistic, but it's almost too realistic.
Yeah,
And
when as a piece of media we're consuming, like, as I would fall into that group that's not had to deal with mental health issues and is learning about these things, and as it sometimes could fall a bit too much into that. I've bought this media to consume because I wanted I want to enjoy it, and I'm not enjoying it because it's not that it gets dark. It's that it's because I don't mind things that get dark or things that get sad or get upsetting, because it's why I'm in there. But sometimes it can just get too much. It gets too deep into that, and then and that's when it starts being like, am I really enjoying this? And so
and there's lots of reviews and YouTube comments on our video that's like, I had to push to get through Rhythm of War, and I feel like that's that audience, because Rhythm of War with both Kaladin and Shallan really deals with that a lot.
Yeah. It's like the scene after Kaladin gets let go, and he's goes back to his bedroom and is just kind of sitting there and breaks down. I really struggled to read that scene because it was too much. As someone who does deal with mental health issues, like, that was too much for me to read, and it hit too close to home. And I remember thinking when I read it, it's like, if this book is going to have multiple scenes like this, then I don't know if I can finish it. And it was fine for me in the end, but there are definitely people out there who have had a lot of trouble reading through Rhythm of War because of how bad it gets for Kaladin, and just how much that hits a nerve for people.
How raw that gets,
It's like, usually with depression, your brain is lying to you, and you feel this horrific weight on you. In Kaladin's case, it's literally like the weight of Urithiru and the entire world, because if Urithiru falls, it's literally the weight of the world. So it is totally understandable if it's like, this is rough. Even if you've dealt with mental illness, that might strike a nerve. If you haven't dealt with mental illness, it's like, this is a lot. And yes, can confirm it is a lot. Yes, that is totally true.
And I do have a criticism, but not criticism, because it's all messy and hard, and there isn't a solution to how to write mental illness in books. But this is another thing that Hello Future Me brings up, is you have to try and balance realism with information with a good story. And something that comes up a lot is this idea of the getting better arc. And Kaladin's going through this, Shallan's going through this, where their story is about them getting better, and it's probably going to end there. Like, they're still going to have their issues, but it's okay. Now you're doing X, Y, Z, and you're better than before, and that's it. That's done. But that's not how it works. And that's not what people go through most of the time. Some people do, and that's really good for them. But a lot of the time, it's the one step forward, two steps back, or like really struggling to move forward to then go further back than you were before. It's a lifelong struggle. But that doesn't make a good story. And Brandon, at the core of it, is trying to tell good stories. So there's also like this weird criticism, not criticism there of whether this is realistic enough that in that sense that people will actually connect to it, because people don't just get better, and that's not how it works. Mm-hmm. But Brandon's also not just catering to people with mental illness. He has to he
also has to provide a piece of entertainment, for people, giving him money. Yeah.
That's interesting you say that, because I feel like a lot of the criticisms I see are people who are saying like, oh, well, he should have gotten over it by now. And people are saying, no, what Brandon is portraying is people not getting better right away. Yeah. And I guess I would say that like my hope and expectation for Kaladin is not that like the promise at the end will be like, oh, Kaladin lived happily ever after, having conquered his depression and PTSD. But Kaladin continues to struggle and will like use his new tools, but hopefully his darkest days are behind him, and then he'll never quite hit this low again while continuing to struggle.
Yeah,
in various points.
That's just what I was thinking. Like to see. He can still have scenes where it's like, well, things suck right now, but we as a reader can be like, well, at least it's not like this other time.
Yeah. I just wanted to like learn some healthy coping mechanisms and build up a support network, and he's getting there. And like, I think Adolin does so much for him in those really dark times, and that's what he needs. So that's what I want for him. Just like build a good mental health toolbox, Kaladin and Shallan.
That is perfectly described by like the first ideal, journey before destination. It's not reaching that point of like he's better now. It's continuing along that path of becoming better, of
taking the next step.
The next step, like finding the coping mechanisms that actually work for him.
And there's not like an end.
Building.
Like it's always putting the next step forward. And when you think about it like that, I don't think Brandon's going to fall into the trap of like, Kaladin's just all better and we never need to see it ever again. And that will probably annoy some people, right? Like that will annoy some readers who are like really tired of reading about Kaladin's depression. And like, though I get that, at least with me being, having mental health, like, hopefully you like Kaladin enough that it's enough for you to push through, because you're probably going to meet people who you might really care about, who it's really hard to be with them for a long time, but you need to be as supportive as you can. I mean, obviously Kaladin's not a real person, so that doesn't really matter. If you're not enjoying a piece of media, it's okay to put it down. It's okay.
I just wanted to give a recommendation to a lot of John Green's books if people are looking for a story that is about someone who has mental health issues, and like that's what the story is about. And it's like really trying to cater towards the group of people who could relate to this person. And particularly his most recent one, Turtles All the Way Down, deals with a girl who has OCD, and John Green also has OCD. So a lot of it is his experiences, and it's both a really fascinating look into a mental health condition that often gets mischaracterized, but he does a very good job at portraying what it's actually like. And even as someone who doesn't have OCD and has other issues, like I really appreciated reading that book. So just wanted to give a shout out to great author John Green.
Yeah,
he's pretty good.
That reminds me. Yeah, he's sponsored us on the podcast before.
No, that was his brother.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, still, regardless, thanks to them.
They're both.
I mean, I'm pretty sure they co-run the company, so technically,
Jess, that reminds me. because you were just saying, John Green struggles with this and, put that in the book. I gotta give props to Brandon. For someone who doesn't deal with depression, he did a damn good job of doing that. And that cannot be your cup of tea. And I think that's reasonable to a point, But damn, he really did that well. He said that, his wife struggles with that. So, yeah, I think he really nailed portraying depression. And because it is so well done, then that's what can make it exhausting to some, right? Like,
yeah. And we're talking a lot about the depression here, but I think it's accurate to say that Kaladin also does have PTSD, which is a pretty unfortunate combo for somebody who's already dealing with
so much.
Yeah.
And it's nice that, there is a book about, the apocalypse in a sense, right? And it's like, our characters are not okay. We are not okay. We've gone through a lot. And even before the True Desolation started, Kaladin was not okay. He is not okay at all.
It's like prior to Rhythm of War, Kaladin has, and it's not called this anymore, but closer to what used to be described as melancholy, where it is more of that low mood without necessarily like the major downward depressive episode swings.
Right.
And I think it is the PTSD that really starts kicking in and combining with the underlying issues that he already has that starts making it so bad.
Yeah. Yeah, totally understandable if you were a reader and you did not like Rhythm of War because of that. The reason why I said up to a point is that there are also other people who are like, just get over it, Cal. And it's like, that is not a realistic portrayal of how this works. Like, it just is not.
And I think that's what Brandon's trying to combat with these books as well. It's like, well, no, that's not how it works. Here is information on how it works, and here is a portrayal.
Yeah.
Kaladin has stormlight. Stormlight isn't going to fix that because that's not how depression works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love the conversation with Teft at the end of Oathbringer, and this is more about Teft than Kaladin, but how he finally acknowledges it's like, well, being a Knights Radiant, saying these ideals, it's not going to fix my problems. And Kaladin responds with, no, it won't.
Journey before destination.
Like there isn't a magical solution. That would be nice if there was, but there isn't.
Yeah. It's funny. I would really love in the real life if there was a magical cure of depression, but if I was reading a story I probably wouldn't like to actually read about in a fantasy world. Like Brandon could have made Stormlight heal that, but he chose not to, and that is probably for the best. To make it just feel more real.
And I really do love that scene with Adolin and Kaladin at the beginning.
So good.
I think part one, Kaladin was, I really enjoyed reading. I think that was part one. They get back to part one. Okay, cool. So that part one, Kaladin, I think is my favorite part of Kaladin's story in Rhythm of War, because it is just that it's the initial fight, and then it's him go back, and it's him being told by Dalinar, hey, you need to take a step back, and he hits that, and then Adolin comes along, and I'm like, it's pretty much one of my favorite scenes in the book. Is like, it sticks out in my mind as like such a good character moment for both of them, because it shows Adolin as a character, and it shows Kaladin's learning that, when Adolin says, you tell me that like you're okay to be alone right now. And Kaladin just he can't, because he knows he shouldn't be, and so it's like, let's go get a drink. Yep. Come on,
let's go to the pub. Let's go to the pub. Everything
exactly. Everyone needs an Adolin in their life.
Ben, that scene
though.
That scene is so real for anyone struggling with depression, because it's like depressed people is like, oh, I'm fine, and then when someone like actually gets like, no. Are you fine? And it's like, no, I'm not fine. It's like, okay. Like, that is very realistic right there.
Yeah.
Such a good scene.
While we're talking about part one, I do really like, whatever you end up thinking of it, I think it's a bold decision from Brandon to take what is our action hero prime character and go, or pulling you off the front lines. And it's undone a little bit with the fact that he still has to do a ton of fighting after that. But
seriously.
But like the promise at the end is that Kaladin is heading towards a point in time where he's not going to be a fighter anymore. And that's something I've not seen in a story with Kaladin like characters before. There's never been a moment where they're like, and actually this wasn't healthy for them and they needed to be done with this.
Yeah, seriously though. Yeah.
Yeah, it's bringing back, like, he was trained as a surgeon. Mm-hmm. He just but happens to be very good at killing people. And it's interesting, like, having this conversation, like, in terms of Kaladin being a real person, but also, like, and part of that I definitely think was in Brennan's head, but part of it is also the writerly is like, oh, Brennan had to take Kaladin off the front line so he could be an
at your theater to fight more.
Weird, like, there's multiple reasons why these things are happening, and it's not, I don't know, it always almost makes me sad that there are these other reasons where it's like, oh, it's not just because Dalinar knows, like, Kaladin can't be on the front lines. It's because Brandon knew he had to do it.
He had to be in.
So it's just like, these aren't real people. So it's like, oh.
I guess he still could have, like, been like, Kaladin, you are Navani's protector, though, or like he could have come up with a different justification for leaving Kaladin behind if he had so wanted to.
Yeah, and I thought Kaladin not being like a soldier in part 2 when he's back with Lirin. Oh boy, we gotta talk about him and Lirin.
Yes,
like,
we do.
Those part 2 scenes aren't fun. Kaladin is not enjoying himself doing this. We see him care a lot more about, you know, the people who do have mental health issues rather than being a surgeon with Lirin. And so it was just a very interesting way to do it. And even though part of it is, oh, Brandon wanted Kaladin in the tower for, you know, to save everyone in the end, at the same time, it does make it a lot more compelling that he wasn't just like in the soldiery area, like fighting back against the initial invasion. And that's just not what happened at all with Kaladin. Like, he was trying to not fight. And that was, it just made things very tense that he like didn't have support from the other soldiers, and also, you know, just didn't die like in the initial assault. So that was also nice. But
immediately.
Yeah.
I do wonder where Brandon's going with Kaladin's character for the next book, because the next book seems very short timeline wise with the 10 days thing, and it very much felt like Brandon was setting up for Kaladin to move back to that surgeon role and away from being a soldier long term. But that doesn't seem like it's possible in the next book. And we were talking before, it's like, well, what if Kaladin just dies in the next book? And it doesn't, I don't think it's a dropped thread, but it feels like an almost like a disappointment to put this forward as another potential and then not continue through with it long term. So maybe if he does live, he definitely goes back to being a surgeon, which would be kind of be nice.
Or at least a mental health surgeon. You know, like he's a therapist or something.
Yeah. I think my opinion on that, Jess, it'll be a lot dependent on how much of what Dalinar said to Kaladin at the end of the book is true. And like, if a lot of Kaladin is Kaladin trying to help Ishar and doing stuff with that, then I'd be like, okay, that's still really Kaladin doing what he said he was going to do. But if it's a lot of Kaladin goes, he's crazy, and then he has to fight a bunch of the Shin, like, probably less so.
Oh, yeah, it's so tricky.
I love that he's going to Shinovar with Szeth.
I'm so excited.
I'm so excited by that. I wish Lift was along for the ride as well, because that would be incredible.
Hey, she still could.
Yeah.
She could sneak in last minute. That's totally a Lift thing.
Like, I distinctly remember we were trying to do Rhythm Stormlight 4 predictions because we didn't know it was Rhythm of War. And I think we said, oh yeah, they're going to try and take back a Lethkar. And who to send? Well, the two best fighters, Kaladin and Szeth. And I'm like, I'm actually really excited that we're at least still getting
There would be such a conflict there. I can't wait to see their interactions.
Go do some mental health for Szeth too, because he really needs it. Wow.
Needs it.
Holy crap.
I can imagine them, they just fly into shit and then Kaladin is like, Szeth, do you want to talk about anything that's happened to us in the last couple of years? And Szeth's just like, no.
Maybe you should, though.
Silence for the next several days, please.
Kaladin's like, did I kill you or did you fall into the hive storm? I don't remember.
if listeners, if you don't know, Brandon changed the ending of Words of Radiance. Originally, Kaladin sliced off his hands so that Szeth would drop the honor blade and fall.
Other way around.
The other way around?
He slices. Yeah, originally he sliced him through the body and killed him immediately.
Oh, right. Okay.
And in the new version, he quickly diverts his blade and just slices his arm. Yeah.
That would be funny if Brandon could make a meta joke about that. That would be funny.
Yeah, I know. I want to see what Kaladin thinks about Szeth, because that's my frustration with Szeth, is that Szeth is this person who slaughtered the entire world and is just living there now, and everyone's like,
hey, how's it going?
Yeah. Like,
Navani's
what does he think? Is he like
okay with it? Navani is not okay with it at all.
Except for the end of Oathbringer, but she's like, you can guard me. It's okay.
Yeah.
That's never quite resolved. Just kind of left.
Yeah. You know what we got to do? We got to do a Szeth podcast, because that has been on our list since Oathbringer. We just haven't done it.
We'll put Alex on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope before Book 5's plot kicks in that we get some just Szeth and Kaladin like trying to bond, or just something, where we set up how they actually feel about each other. Because honestly, I couldn't tell you how Kaladin feels about Szeth, or the other way around. He probably doesn't like him very much. Either way, I
don't think it's like super positive, all things considered.
It's but is it like, does he think about him often, or does he just kind of, does he worry that the assassin in white is sitting in the Tower of Ethereal all this time, and like, does it play on the back of his mind? It's never mentioned, so I don't know how Kaladin feels about Szeth. So.
Oh, Ben, you saying all of that has just immediately triggered the shipping part of my brain, and everything you just said laid the foundation for like Kaladin Szeth as a ship. So thank you for that.
No problem.
There is a kind of a little moment at the end of Oathbringer, I would say, where there's like a little of the sibling rivalry thing where Szeth, I feel like, gets sent to go deal with the King's Drop, and he's like, I guess Kaladin's protecting him. And he's just kind of like, okay, well, I just swore to follow Dalinar, but Kaladin's got it.
that is funny. That's very believable for how Szeth would, react to Kaladin. But we gotta get Kaladin's feels on Szeth, because Szeth killed members of Bridge 4, and typically Kaladin doesn't like people who do that. Historically speaking. It's like Mart or Eth, one of the two. I don't remember. The ones that were introduced in Words of Radiance to die.
Yeah, like he sliced Hobba's legs, and Kaladin then had to like see Hobba deal with being, disabled for months. It was one of his men. And he's probably not very happy with him.
I'm really excited to see that. Like I can't imagine it's going to be like a super positive experience. Like Szeth will probably be like, well, I do what I'm told. That's what I'm doing. That's what that sounds like, by the way.
Also, the fact that it's Skybreaker versus Windrunner.
Oh, yeah. That's good on like a meta level, too.
Syl is going to have some opinions on the high spread. I'm sure.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
I wonder if we'll actually like meet Szeth's high spread, because I don't even think we have a name for them yet.
He has not chosen to share his name or bless Szeth with his name.
Or even a regular shard blade. Like, what is going on with that? We got to get all that.
Would he even use a regular shard blade? Like, I feel like the high spren would just be like, yeah, I use Nightblood, then I don't have to like come into the physical realm and be handled by you.
That is probably a great point, that if you're any spren who bonds Szeth, this is the one spren in the world who'd be like, you know what? You swore the right ideal, but I'm not going to be a blade for you. Like, I'm never doing that. That thing can destroy me. Nope, I'm out. I'm good. Thanks.
Yeah. I also just can't wait to see the more people interacting with Nightblood as well, and particularly Syl. I want to see just how much Syl does not like Nightblood, because I do not think she will.
Really? I think Syl will find Nightblood.
Syl could like Nightblood's personality, maybe.
Yes. Oh, she'll probably be a bit scared of him when she hears what he could potentially do. But do they know what he could potentially do?
I mean, they don't know that they killed Odium.
No.
Like we as the readers know that, so we're like, that's not good.
Like they don't know that they
will tell anyone about that.
Yeah, but
it's not just
he didn't really know that he was killing Odium, right? Like Szeth didn't really know what exactly.
No, because
happened.
Szeth was not drawn into the vision.
Right.
Yeah.
But because Nightblood was there, Nightblood got pulled in.
Yeah.
But will Nightblood say anything?
I think Nightblood, when he's had a big meal, forgets kind of what.
That is true.
Yeah, he has like memory issues when he's
he could
eaten a
say
lot.
though that he's like,
he ate a lot.
I had a really big meal, like something like that, right?
Like
Where it's like lots of evil.
Where it's like just like an allusion to that event, but like the character's like, I don't know what that means, Nightblood. It's like, great, good for you, buddy. I don't know, but oh man,
I hope it was tasty.
I hope so too.
Like, I don't even know if he remembers that much.
I don't
know, because I feel like after like one of him, it being drawn as like not believing. Can't remember where it was. Not believing like that they he got fed so much that's like,
I think that
didn't happen.
I think that was in the Pure Lake when Szeth used him to kill that guy, the jailer, and Nightblood was like, "Did you draw me? I don't remember that."
That's right. Yeah. Yes, you did all those Skybreaker Alkalite articles, David.
Warren.
Yeah. I do want to steer a bit back to Kaladin because there's a lot to talk about with Szeth. We haven't talked about Szeth either. I think we've just procrastinated doing main characters because it's like, oh man, there's so much to talk about, but how do we talk about it? So let's steer a bit back towards surgery and Lirin, because there's another thing that I liked about Rhythm of War, and that Kaladin finally gets to interact with Lirin on a philosophical level. Like that's kind of what was set up in Way of Kings, and that was never dealt with, was dealt with here. I'm like, yes, good.
We've been talking about that for a long time, saying that this had to happen at some point.
It had to, right? So what'd you guys think about Kaladin and Lirin?
I was so furious with Lirin at the end of part 2. Like blind rage is like, no, like, because up until that point, I'm like, Lirin's not that bad a dad. Like, yeah, sure, he's not great, but like, he's not top tier bad dad in the Cosmere. That I'm just like, no, like you cannot tell someone you are not my son. Like that is just never the thing to say. How much I disagree with them.
Yeah, it's fair. It's
just like that's like seriously screwed up. I'm like, no, Kaladin is the one that's in the right.
Yeah, it's for me. It's like how Lirin's always had this philosophy on life. That's I can see the points to, but generally disagree with. But no matter what, but like in my head, I'm like, okay, so this philosophy, but surely when presented with a realistic scenario where your philosophy isn't going to work out well, like, the end of the world is literally happening and people who want to come genocide you, maybe don't stick to your I'm going to help everyone and never harm anyone philosophy. But then he made it, but when he stuck by that, I was annoyed at him. And then he made it personal when he said to Kaladin, "You are not my son." That's when you're bringing in. I'm like, nah. I'm gonna swear, that dude, that guy. It's just nah.
Yeah, I mean that's fair.
Yeah.
The thing that got me it's not just that scene, but the fact that he's so stubborn that he held that, like, those thoughts and that anger for so much of the book, including when Kaladin was literally dying and he refused to go help him. And it was only because his wife is the purest cinnamon roll to exist.
Cina's great.
And also was like, well, no, I'm going to go save our son because how dare you? That Lirin then decided is like, oh, maybe I shouldn't be such an ass. Like, that's what gets me. It's like, dude, you're going on. Like, you went on in Oathbringer about how you lost both of your sons and you've gotten one back and he's tried to create this relationship with you and you just keep pushing him away until you really, like, completely shove him across the room away, like, really far that you won't even consider saving his life. What is wrong with you?
Like, in Lirin's defense, like, Kaladin did just straight up murder a guy in, well, not murder, but rules of combat aside.
Yeah,
like,
he killed
the guy, like, in a surgery. So, like, it was abrupt, but still, like, Lirin could have reacted to that slightly better.
Yes.
More than slightly.
I'm going to come in as a Lirin defender here. Not too strongly, but an intermediate Lirin defender. Just for the sake of fun. I will say that I think that I come from lucky enough to have, like, a very unconditional love family. So I do not believe Lirin is doing a good job as a father here. Totally agree. Lirin and Kaladin are so similar, and their only difference is whether or not they believe that a person can take a life. And there's a great moment in part 2 when, like, right after Kaladin kills that guy, and Lirin, like, screams at him, "I swore oaths." And that's Kaladin. Like, he swore an oath to do no harm. And if in a different world where Kaladin is protecting someone and Lirin thinks, oh no, we have to sacrifice this person for the greater good, Kaladin would have a very similar response, I think. And so, and I also will say that Lirin was just kind of, when they asked him to come heal Kaladin, I believe he was pouting a little bit because his scene is like, are you really not going to go get your son? And he's like, no, I'm going to go heal him. Although I think he'd do better if I brought him back here because I don't know if I have the stuff to save him if he's in a coma right now, if I go to him. But I think he's playing it up, and I do not believe Lirin would have let Kaladin die regardless of what he said right in the very first moment.
It's like part of the issue is Kaladin and Lirin are very similar in certain ways. There's a great piece of fan art that I don't remember who did it, but it's a comic scene of Dalinar meeting Lirin. And it's like, it's like,
yes.
Like, I can't remember like exactly how it goes.
I'm
like,
actually going to go into WoB mode so that we can show this off. I know exactly what it was. It's like, I don't see the family resemblance. And then they do the same
and it's
face.
Like the two of them like backlit and like you can't see their faces. And then it's like, oh, wait. And it's just a close-in up of both of their faces. And it's just like the exact same scowly, like, I'm disappointed in you expression. And it's just, it's so good.
It's such good, like, subtle characterization because, like, Brandon doesn't, like, smack you over the head with that, but they both take their oaths very seriously. And maybe this is personal to me because I also have a dad who, let's say, takes rules and oaths to the nth extreme with no wiggle room whatsoever and is a garbage person because of it. But, you know, maybe that's just me. But Lirin is almost, in a sense, a good way of thinking about how honor is not always the best plan, right? Like, just because you swore an oath doesn't inherently make it right. And they, like, even Dalinar is like, no, saying an oath is what makes it right. I'm like, I mean... But that's not always true, right? Like that is not always true. I mean, usually, sure, but maybe don't do that to your own son. Like it gets into that honor versus odium thing, which I really like. And it will be interesting if we see a Radiant really, I took my oaths to the final level and maybe I'm not great. I mean, I guess we kind of get that with Nail. Like,
that's Nail.
Kind of not
Honor has defeated him.
Nail in a nutshell.
But
So glad people got that joke.
Yeah, no, Nail's nuts. It's great. Great pun. So it's just interesting with Lirin that he just really encapsulates, like, no, I made an oath. That's what makes it right. And how dare you, like, just confront that. And he does not like doing that at all.
Yeah.
I will say, I do think, I just want to clarify, I do think that Lirin is justified in being incredibly angry at the end of part 2. Like, he does have these pacifist views, and Kaladin is very well aware of that, and Lirin loathes violence and killing, and, like, someone is killed directly in front of him in Lirin's safe space as well. Like, his surgery is his sanctuary, and I can very much see why he is so angry about that. I just think the way that he goes about that anger and, like, the direction that he channels it towards Kaladin, I think there's problems there. But
Yes.
I do think that Lirin is justified to be angry and very angry at Kaladin in that moment in time.
And I would agree with you. And that's why I do like that Lirin doesn't necessarily change his mind, but becomes open to it at the end.
Yeah.
Like, and a large part of that is Hesina smacking him upside the head and, like, being
Come on, mate.
the ray of light that Hesina is.
That interlude was so
She
good.
is wonderful.
So good.
And because she does love Lirin for being Lirin, but she can also acknowledge sometimes Lirin is too much Lirin.
Yes. And that's certainly Jess and I, where Jess is like, Eric, that was, could just, tone it back a little bit.
Yeah.
It's like, good call. Good call.
and part of that is also Lirin, like Kaladin, is very stubborn. So, like, he made his decision and, like, he wants to stick to it. And, like, he doesn't want to see, like, all the people, like, with the Shash brands on their painted on their foreheads are just idiots. Like, but once he gets to, like, hear them, it's like, oh, all of you believe in my son. Maybe I should too.
Maybe you should, Lirin.
Maybe
you should.
And like, he also paints the brand on his forehead at the very end. And like, that was such a great moment to show that switch in his thinking and the belief that, because I think Lirin did always believe in Kaladin, but he was just so resistant to the way Kaladin was going about things. And to see Lirin give a little bit of ground to try and find that compromise with his own personal values was really powerful.
Yeah, it's the, I still don't agree with you, but I'm going to support you anyway.
Yeah.
Good. That is what Lirin's arc needed to be. Like, you have these, it's like, we could, it's the end of the world, so, we can give a little bit and be supportive of, your son.
Something I really like, because I went back and read some of Kaladin's backstory back when Rhythm of War first came out, and this is something Brandon does very well, I think. Like, he's very good at putting across different tones for different characters, particularly them seeing themselves versus other people seeing that character from the outside. But what I noticed is in Kaladin's flashbacks, he really does think of Lirin with this, like, childhood wonder. This person is my dad. Like, I have a very limited view of the world because I'm so young, and I do hold him to such high esteem because he is my father. And the scene with Rashon, and then, like, talking to Lirin afterwards, I think really showed that, and the fact that Kaladin decided then he wanted to be a surgeon, not a soldier, and like follow Lirin's path. But then we get Kaladin as an adult seeing Lirin, and it is different. Like, he is viewing his father from a much more critical perspective because Kaladin has gone that route of the soldier and his views have changed. So I just love that Brandon is able to write that in a pretty subtle way, but it is still there. And it was only because I was reading kind of one then the other that I noticed it. But that was cool.
Mm-hmm.
Thinking about this, like, this is like some of Brandon's most subtle characterization that you can pick up on, I feel. Like, it's just so believable and natural that it's just like, yeah, all of it totally makes sense. Like, some of the best Brandon has maybe ever done, along with like Kaladin and Adolin. Like, they have such a great relationship that's totally believable as well. But like, this is a much more subtle thing but you can still notice the characterization. So props to you, Brandon. Excellently done.
Lirin is fascinating to me. Like, I love that we got this look at what it would really mean to be a pacifist in this type of situation. Like, Lirin, there's nothing Lirin won't do to avoid, like, to the point where we're all like, this is a little, like, most people would probably stand up for themselves at this point, Lirin. But yeah, it's incredible. And I love, and this is like throwing it back, but I still love that Lirin stole those spheres. Like, that is just so interesting to me as a person that he, like, you know, he's put up, as Jess said, kind of like this hero thing. And I think the first crack in that is when Kaladin realizes that he stole the spheres. And it's probably not wrong. I wouldn't call it wrong, in my opinion. But Lirin has his own code, and he has his own places where he's willing to go into a gray area.
Right. But that's not killing.
And that gets into the law and honor are not the same thing.
Yep.
Yes.
Not all of the orders are concerned with the law like the Skybreakers are. So it's like, so Lirin it's another example of like honor being a theme of the Stormlight Archive. It's like Lirin is very much of honor, but he isn't of the law necessarily.
No. Lirin would be a terrible Skybreaker.
Yeah. And then there's a scene also from Kaladin's childhood where he's saving Rashon's life and he hesitates. And Kaladin has the thought of, is he going to kill him? And then Lirin doesn't. But there's the clear moment where Lirin obviously stopped and thought about it. And like that was a very interesting look into Lirin's character of like, where the line was for him. It's like, is there so great like problem that is affecting me so much that I'm willing to push past my morals to help myself? And he didn't do it in that case.
And the interesting thing is too, if I recall correctly, the reason he didn't do it is because he looks at Kaladin and he decides that he's not going to do that. And I feel like it's interesting in the context of him wanting to set a good example and wanting Kaladin to be just like him. And that's something that he actually draws strength from. So later, when Kaladin is deliberately rejecting his whole worldview, you can kind of see.
Probably double hurts.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man. Yeah. Wow. I love their relationship. Oh, it's so good.
I want Lirin to get a friend.
What friend should he get?
I don't know, but he should get a friend. Like he's
so of honor that it's like, oh, you just need a friend, Lirin.
I actually have a theory, which I can't remember if it was disproved in Rhythm of War, but in one of the books, Syl talks about how she heard a voice from Kaladin's childhood that was clear but firm, and a lot of people thought it was Tien, and Brandon said it wasn't Tien, but I think it was Lirin.
Ooh.
Yeah, I don't think we know anything about that still.
No, I don't think we do.
Yeah.
I kind of forgot about that.
Keep this headcanon then.
I think Lirin would make a terrible Windrunner.
Like, I don't think he should be a Windrunner either.
I think so as well, yeah.
He could not do that. But Edge Dancer, I think, is high on the list.
The thing that gets me about Edge Dancer is like Edge Dancer is where the heel is, right? So I do understand putting Lirin in as with the group that is the healers, but I don't think that necessarily pairs up his views with what oaths it should be.
Yeah, I agree.
Mhm.
Like he's very focused on the saving and helping people thing, in terms of like through medical health, and so I don't think there's any order that he really fits. I'm trying to think.
Well, one thing you could do is like Else Caller. Like, I will reach my potential.
Yeah,
right?
I
Like that
more.
works really well for that. But I don't remember. Like, sorry, I just had to look at the
Watcher.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I just
I
had
was
to look at
thinking
the 10
Truth Watch, yeah.
essence chart and divine attributes, loving, healing, and I'm like, well, you have one of those.
Isn't Elsecaller also blood as the...
No,
Oil.
Else Color is
Oil.
Oil. Light
For the
Weaver
body.
is
Yeah.
blood.
Okay.
Yep.
I knew it was one of the ones with like the red gems. I just couldn't remember which.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Else Color divine attributes, or at least associated with that herald. It's not necessarily related to the radiance, but I mean,
They kind of are.
they kind of
Like,
are. But wise, careful for Else Collar. It's like, well, I mean, could be an Else Collar. I don't know, but he should get a Spren, and I would love to see that relationship and his banter with a Spren, because that would be great. What if the Spren sides with Hasina? It's like, no, Hasina's totally right. What are you doing? It's like,
I mean, who
fine.
wouldn't side with Hasina? Like, I love Sill's interactions with Hasina
Yes.
as well, and
Yes.
like talking about Kaladin, and they just like riff off each other to like
so good.
poke at
One another
Kaladin in
Sill.
a fun way.
It's so good.
I hope we get another Syl Hasina scene before, the
Yeah.
end.
Yeah.
Whatever that is.
I wanted Hasina to interact with Navani because I think they would get along.
Yes. Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. Maybe they
Everyone
will.
will get along with Hasina.
I mean,
Hasina's the
She's
best.
pretty great.
So I was looking at the descriptions of the 10 Knights Radiance, and I know he would make a terrible Stone Ward, but the opening paragraph, the catchphrase of them is "I'll be there when I'm needed."
That would be
And
an
Stone Ward
interesting
was-
Stone Ward, I will say.
Yeah, and here's the opening paragraph is Stoneward's focus on team dynamics and working with others and being there for those who need them. They put the interests of others before their own and will not bend their ideals for the sake of convenience.
Ooh,
And I'm
well,
like-
when you say it like
Wow.
that, that's like... But that would be really funny to have Lirin be
Like a
like a
Stone
combat
Ward medic.
medic and
combat
later,
medic.
like... that would be such a nice reversal, and like when you just read that, I was like, oh crap, yeah, that does kind of fit.
Yeah, I think certainly there does exist a Spren that would be interested in Lirin. They might be an imperfect fit in some ways, like Venli is, or someone that's making it work. But Lirin is. There's a Spren out there that's gonna be like, oh, this guy is cool.
He's
Yeah.
definitely of honor. No one could say he's not. He will say his oath.
Yeah.
He will keep to his oaths. That's
I
for
bet
damn
Wendell
sure.
would have liked Lirin if he was gonna. I
Yeah.
bet Wendell would have gotten
Yeah.
along okay
Yeah.
with him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lirin better survive to... Oh, what if it's like old grandpa Lirin being a Stone Ward healer? That sounds incredible. Let's be honest. That'd be the best.
One final note on Lirin is that Lirin had another son named Tien, who was also very important in understanding Kaladin, and who had had one of the best scenes in Rhythm of Four.
Yeah.
The scene that does make me cry when I think about it too much
Yeah, me too.
to this day.
Yeah. Read it multiple times, cried every single time.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
Yeah, and Brennan usually can't get me to be emotional. That scene, because it's the scene where Kaladin is falling through the storm and Dalinar
To die,
connects
commit
himself.
suicide. That's what Kaladin was doing.
Yeah,
He jumped.
connects Kaladin to himself and sees a vision of the spiritual realm.
Sure.
And it's like the day Tien died, but not, and
He's
Tien is an
grown up.
adult and he's a kid, and it's weird and it's awesome and it's beautiful.
Yeah. Wow.
It was painful to read, but it was so good.
Like I picked up on it like the first paragraph. I'm like, Brandon, what are you doing? Because like I knew it was.
I picked up on it straight away as well.
As soon as like, oh, he was on a tent on a battlefield, I was like, oh no.
Like, don't you do this to me, Brandon. And I'm so glad he did.
Like, it's just,
how dare you?
It's the connection with like Dalinar and the Stormfather doing that, and then the Tien stuff. Like, it all just comes together so well. And oh man, like that, like Dog and the Dragon is also great for Kaladin's like progression with like, no, you will be warm again. I know things suck now a lot, but you will be warm again. But the Tien scene, oh man, that kills me. And the fact
that like Tien had such an impact on Kaladin, like the fact that he did the Katniss Everdeen, I volunteer as tribute to follow him to the army, and then like has blamed himself for Tien's death since it happened. Oh, he blamed himself for Tien being separated even before that, and tried so hard to like get them back together again, and it just didn't work. So this feels almost like closure in a way, because I know there are varying theories of how that dream sequence worked. But to me, a lot of it came from Kaladin, and like this was the part of his brain that knew what he needed to get through this, giving that to him in a way that magic could supply. And that gave him enough of a push forward to then go on and do the fourth ideal, save his father. And I just love that it all tied back into this guilt over the loss of his little brother, and how that ties into presumably fixing some of the not quite broken, but like damaged bonds he has with the rest of his family, and how that's going to move them forward. Because it really felt like Lirin also feels guilt over Tien's death and like losing both of them to the army. And now this is the time for them as a family to begin to heal. And the fact that that comes from that same source that really drove them apart in a way is a like really nice circular resolution.
Yeah. It's like Kaladin's releasing his guilt. The slave brands disappearing are weird, and I want to talk about that, but like there is that change where he's like,
and that's what the fourth ideal is about, right?
Yeah, this is what I was going to say. Is I think we said on a predictions podcast for Stormlight 4 was, do we think his oath about I have to accept there's people I can't save, is that person he can't save going to be Lirin, and is Lirin going to die in this book?
I thought he was going to.
I thought he was so strongly.
Yeah, we had that idea, Jess. Yeah.
And it turned out, and then what it was is it ended up being is like, we already know the person he couldn't save, and it was Tien. Tien is the person he accepted that he couldn't save when he said his fourth oath. Yeah.
But I also want to point out that Tien was also very important to him swearing his third oath.
Yeah.
And it's the realization that Elhokar
is Tien.
It was Dalinar's Tien. It's like, it's not his fault that he's not good at what he's doing, and like he shouldn't just be sacrificed.
Yeah.
And so so it's also the third oath is Kaladin realizing it's not Tien's fault, and the fourth oath is Kaladin realizing it's not my fault either.
Yeah.
Wasn't the second oath also about Tien? Because he has like that other like I'm dying dream vision before he jumps over the bridge, and is awesome.
Yeah,
everything ties back to his brother.
Tien's death right before.
Yeah, I can't wait for the next Tien flashback. It's going to destroy us.
Yeah, like
what's number 5 going to be?
Yeah, what is number 5 going to be? Like, we'll
get to that.
We'll get to that.
Yeah,
but I still always think about the slave brands disappearing. Like, that's a interesting aspect, because like let's not talk about the Cosmere, what's going on with that Tien vision, because that's just put it in a box, put it later.
Okay.
But
its own podcast.
that is its own podcast, and we need Evgeny for that. Like the slave brands disappearing, that sort of indicates that Kaladin no longer sees himself as that slave, right?
Yes.
And the interesting thing is, they only start flaking off, or at least they're only described as starting to flake off after he sees the mark on Lirin's forehead.
Oh,
They might have
really?
started healing it
Ooh.
before that, but Brandon like describes it because it's like he looks and like sees it on like Lirin's forehead, and like Lirin like goes like pushes back like Kaladin's veins, and they're starting to flake off.
Oh, I totally forgot that.
That makes me wonder if the meaning of them has changed so much to be a supportive thing instead of meaning you are a slave now. And that's why they're now coming off, because he can't see himself as a slave with those anymore, because that's not what they mean.
And connecting with that is Tien stuff, because it's like, it's so intimately connected with all that backstory in Way of Kings.
It, for me, just like my interpretation of it, I think that it's probably, in my interpretation, it's not relevant that Lirin sees them first, because in my mind, Kaladin probably just didn't notice they were healing. But
I think it's an interesting narrative point on the part of Brandon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I definitely I was just saying, for my interpretation, that's not a component to it. But I think part of it is really just Kaladin, maybe not in a much more real way, because I don't want to minimize actual slavery, which is awful. But
Yes.
and Kaladin himself was enslaved by people and freed by people, and that all happened. But he has also been, in his own mind, in some ways, like enslaved to that moment of his life when he lost Tien, and has never been able to move past that. And in the same way that he finally manages to let go and free himself, at least in part of that guilt, is when he loses those brands.
Yeah.
So to me, I think that's a pretty easy interpretation to make, but definitely there are others out there.
I thought you were going to say, David, I thought you were going somewhere else, because I've got a similar but different, where he almost felt, because of him letting Tien die, he felt he needed to be punished, and he almost felt he deserved to be a slave because of what happened. So when he let go of the guilt, he let go of the need to feel punished for that. Yeah. And so he didn't see himself as a slave anymore.
And just touching back on Kaladin's mental health issues, like that makes a lot of sense, both with depression and PTSD, because that is something that people with both types of conditions do. Like they feel like they need to punish themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it's not just letting go of the guilt of failing Tien, it's failing like all the people in his squad that Amaram killed. It's like it's all of that.
All the other squads too.
And all the other squads and all the other groups of miscreants he gathers together and
the wall guard and
Yeah.
And
Elhokar, you're totally right, Jess, because that's what's ever since Oathbreaker, that loss of Elhokar and that freezing up. We had to deal with that in Rhythm of War.
I love that he even at one point was like, I can't believe Elhokar did this to me. Like, it was Elhokar, and I'm still so messed up by it.
Yeah, no, that does make sense. I do like the chapter right after the Tien scene where it's just called Reborn, where like Kaladin's kind of reborn, and like that's such a good chapter title, and he's glowing a light. Kaladin's really turned a corner. Like I really like connecting back with what you said earlier, Jess, about how this is the getting better arc, and we don't want just to magically be better. This was a good way of using magic to confront depression. Hard to say in a realistic way, because I mean it's not, but like it's a nice way of using Cosmere magics to get Kaladin to confront that, and
without fixing it.
Kaladin still needs to truly believe what he is saying there, right? To say the fourth ideal.
Yeah, it's not realistic, but it is genuine.
Yeah. That's a good word. That makes a bunch of sense. I don't know how Kaladin's character is gonna continue, because like are we gonna get a fifth ideal in book 5? Like, I don't know.
I feel like we have to. And I feel like it has to come from Kaladin. Like, if Brandon has built up Kaladin's character as the one where we get all of the oaths up to this point, he can't not give Kaladin the fifth oath. That feels like he's promised something and then not given it in the end. I don't know what it's going to be. Like, fourth oath just feels like OP godhood already. Yeah,
what can fifth oath
what
even be?
What the hell is the fifth oath of a Windrunner?
Yeah,
I am protection.
I am honor.
Maybe.
And then Kaladin picks up honor, and literally no other Windrunner can ever hit the fifth oath again.
Well, they keep talking about the power of the greater oath, so maybe Kaladin will get to the fifth ideal, and they'll be like, "This is why we didn't want this to happen."
Yeah,
but
break the glass ceiling.
See, part of me doesn't want it to happen in book 5. Like, if Kaladin survives, then like it doesn't need to happen in book 5. Like he's just done so much character development. Are we going to get another ideal in 10 days? I don't know.
I feel like if it doesn't happen in book 5 is still meant to be kind of the end of the first half. And
the characters,
Yeah, it'd be like if Brandon, and I'm going to be really annoyed if Brandon does draw this out, but like if Brandon draws out the War of Reckoning into the back half, it's like this really seems like something that was the overarching arc for the front half.
The War of Reckoning? Or do you mean the True Desolation?
Kind of all of that together.
Oh,
just like
okay.
The original conflict because of Gavilar between the listeners and the humans that has led to like the Singers versus the humans. Like maybe it's just a pause in the war, but if it just kind of keeps going through this time skip and then 10 years later we're like, oh, we've had 10 years of war, I would feel exhausted by that. It's like this really seemed like your overarching, not like plot, but the thing holding together the first 5. And I think Kaladin's oath progressions is the same thing. So it just feels really awkward if Brandon like plucks that and puts it in the back half somewhere.
Yeah. And Brandon has described like, the first 5 are more focused on the Radiance and the back 5 are more focused on the Herald.
Yeah.
For that, we have to see somebody swear a 5th ideal.
Yeah.
In Kaladin, if it isn't Kaladin, it won't hit the same way.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
fine.
totally
We'll just get it in Shallan, and then maybe we'll actually know what ideal she's on.
Well, that'll be her 9th ideal, though. So.
Yeah. 9th one.
Will it be a fifth with
the one of odium?
Yeah.
Should I come in with my 5th oath theory? Or
let's do it. Let's do it. Yeah,
let's do it. Let's do 5th oath theories. I'm going to go in with mine. So I've said mine like 4 times now, but I'm going to say it again anyway.
That's okay.
Yeah. So Kaladin's the Windrunner oaths are very much about adding exceptions to the second oath, essentially, which is I will protect people who can't protect themselves. And there's also this idea of the Windrunners are both defending, protecting, and leading. And there's a bit in Rhythm of War where Kaladin talks about retiring as a trainer for other Windrunners, and he says he would never be able to like send other people, like train them up and send them to their deaths. But the thing is if he's trained them up, then they wouldn't be people who can't protect themselves anymore. He'll have trained them to protect themselves, and so he doesn't need to protect them, and so he could send them away. And so that's why I think the final oath of the Windrunners is to let people protect themselves. Like, he needs to accept that sometimes people can protect themselves. He doesn't have to be there for everyone. And
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah, whether it's as a leadership role or it's as a I don't have to protect these people. They've got their own thing going on. I can protect them in a different way. I can leave and do something else.
He's given them the tools to protect themselves.
Yes, and it fits. It slots real nicely with him becoming a herald and leaving Roshar as well. It slots real nicely in there.
Yeah, it does though.
I like that, Ben, because I think it also fits with something that hasn't quite gotten explored yet, but we kind of got our promise with Adolin, which is Kaladin doesn't love to kill, but he does love the fight. And that is still a part of him too. And if he can figure out a way to make that a part of who he is, I think he will.
And it also would dovetail in quite nicely with him becoming a psychiatrist, like helming the revolution of mental health treatment on Roshar, where like giving people the tools to cope is helping them to protect themselves from themselves.
Yeah, that's what it is. I will give you the tools to protect yourselves. Like it really rolls off the tongue really well.
I will help build your toolbox for you.
That's it.
That's the whole. That's it.
That's all believable. I guess like I guess he will get a 5th oath. Like I get the critique of just it's another Kaladin oath saving the day, right? But it was really awesome in this book. Like it was really cool, great in book 1 and 2. So
I don't think he'll save the day in the same way. In the same way in this book, he really kind of saved Lirin and Leshwi, really, for the most part. And like Navani actually saved everybody. So I think we'll get a big, like a Kaladin character moment potentially, but I don't think him destroying the 5th ideal will solve a problem that otherwise wouldn't have been able to have been solved.
The criticism of like, yet another Kaladin ideal. It's that is the point of the series. Like, it's like yes, you can criticize that, but that's the point.
That's why there's 5
of the series. It's about swearing oaths.
That is the promise that has been set up.
Yeah.
I as someone who is a little bit sick of the number of fight scenes in this book, particularly with Kaladin, I also have to accept that that's the point. Like, this is a book about war where we're going to get fight scenes and we have characters that are specifically set up to do the hero fighting. And they just have to go through that.
There was maybe a bit too much fighting in this book. Like when Brandon posted the part 1 annotations, it's like, maybe I should have cut this fight. I'm like, I think you probably should have cut that fight in part 1. Like, there was like one where he was mentioning like, I could do with just like a bit less magical combat. That, if anything, that's my critique of Rhythm of War. Just a bit less of that.
That was exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah, there you go.
I hit my limit, and I wasn't expecting this, of like caring about Kaladin fight scenes in part 1 with the Hearthstone chapters, and then reading more, it's like, oh no, it all continues, because of course it continues. But yeah, I really struggled to get through like Kaladin and Era Theory, particularly on my reread, because I just didn't want to read more fight scenes. So like I found myself just zoning out and skimming through them, even though like there was like cool dialogue and stuff in them, but I'm like, I don't care about this at all.
The comparing the first fight scene to like the other fight scenes in the book, Leshwi and Kaladin have great flirtation energy. That's Kaladin and Lesian just don't, and so that made that first one
that's
far
true. They
more
don't have that chemistry.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's accurate.
Okay. Was it more enjoyable though than watching Kaladin pull Lesian's head off with a reverse slashing? Because that was
horrifying, but cool.
There was a moment where I was like, I'm glad he's gone though. Like I was pretty okay with that.
I'm so glad Lesian was a 1-book villain. Not okay with Raboniel being a 1-book villain, but Lesian being dead, I'm very glad he's dead.
Yeah. The scene where Kaladin kills Lesian very gruesomely and brutally, his eyes are glowing as well. And I've definitely seen theories around that, because Moash was trying to convert him to odium, literally just before, and like that being the moment where like Kaladin did kind of slip a bit into the odium side of thinking or influence, because that was very brutal in a way that like Kaladin wouldn't normally do. And the fact that he then goes on and like does jump off the tower, it all is, it's such a dark moment that like feeds into everything that's happened before it, and him giving in. And that's the whole thing with Odium, right? It's you give in and give your emotions. So that's very interesting.
Yeah. And Brandon's even said on the recent stream, talking about, would Kaladin ever turn dark? And Brandon's like, no, he wouldn't really be a super credible villain. But I absolutely think that like Odium was pissed that Kaladin didn't, fall to
Odium was trying to do that. Like he was trying to convert Kaladin specifically.
Yeah. And
I wonder how much of that was because Kaladin is like such an integral part of the Erythero group, even though he's not one of the monarchs. Like if he was suddenly like yanked out from them, that would leave a sizable hole that I think would leave them scrambling quite a bit.
Yeah. And it gets into it would be terrifying to everyone else, because like if Odium can corrupt Kaladin, like he can corrupt anyone.
Yeah.
Anyone.
Mm-hmm. And I think Kaladin, he says even he wants me. If he keeps pushing, he'll have me. So I have to go. Like Kaladin is really like Odium is after Kaladin, and Kaladin knows it.
Yeah.
Which is like the glowing yellow eyes is just so weird.
The yellow baffles me. I'm like, is it the gold of Odium? Like, what is this yellow?
Yeah, I think that's what that's supposed to be implying. Yeah.
I guess, but it's not. But Odium's not yellow. He's gold. Like he's like, it's not quite that. It's just odd to me.
No one else
That's
glows
not
yellow.
the color of corruption either.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not red.
Yeah. I don't know.
That's super weird.
That is weird.
It's weird.
Maybe it's like
book 5.
I want it now.
That is the problem with Stormlight 4 is it's like, oh my god, I want book 5 so bad.
Mm-hmm. And I think part of it too is a lot of what I assume is going to be the payoff with Kaladin, which is a slightly more like upbeat Kaladin for a book where we get a little more like Kaladin has an okay time. It's going to be book 5. So we got all the tough Kaladin, and we're like, okay, this has got to happen. We got to see what happens next to him.
Yeah.
And that's the difficulty with like the 4th book in a 5-book series is like, this is always going to be the setup book for the next one. Yeah. So like, how do you make it interesting enough by itself, but also like have it do all the setup? And yeah, it does make it hard to wait for the like slightly more chipper Kaladin.
I'll just riff with Szeth. Yeah, I don't know how much we could say on the yellow eyes other than it's like, that is weird on many levels, including a mechanical level. Like, how did that happen? Why? What is up with that? That is weird. But one thing I wanted to mention is in Weyr's interlude, there's a quote that Odium says about Kaladin, where Odium is saying, "He has left the battle, which I hadn't thought him capable of doing. Strangely, this will make him far more dangerous in the future unless we can act. But I cannot strike him down directly, not unless he puts himself into my hands." So, well, I mean, clearly that's, talking about that Odium-y stuff, but like more dangerous? I guess.
I think I might have an idea for this.
Okay.
Which is that if Brennan had kept Kaladin in the fight, Kaladin would not have reached the point where he would have sworn the 4th and eventually the 5th ideal.
He'd just be crushed with the PTSD and stuff and the fight.
Yeah, so it's like Odium knows like he's been removed from the fight. Now he has the potential to hit those greater points of power and self-realization.
That's most sensible.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. I think I would like to believe it's more than just the 4th. Like I like to believe that this is a seed of a Kaladin that will grow into something more dangerous to Odium even than we've yet seen. But and part of that could be just helping the Radiants and helping the Radiants deal with who tend to be people who have lots of mental health issues to deal with, like be more effective.
Yeah. It's a point of growth for Kaladin in a way Odium doesn't want.
Like, I could imagine, like, in the spiritual realm, like, there's like a branching off point where like if Kaladin stays in the fight, then it's like, okay, this set of possibilities will happen. But because he's in this part, it's like, well, I don't know which of these is going to happen, but it's all not great. That's kind of what I imagine.
I think it asks the question of, is Kaladin going to be Honor's champion in the next book? And is the fact that he did end up being able to swear the fourth ideal and presumably fifth ideal, that's what makes him actually be that champion and be a threat. And like Odium does have some future sight, so maybe he saw that and that was why he was trying to stop this.
I do agree that we've been told Dalinar will be his own champion, and I think there's a decent chance that will happen, but Brandon has successfully managed to set something up really obvious, so act like it's not going to happen, and then go back to the obvious thing like he did with Navani and the sibling before.
Yeah, that's true.
So I could definitely see something happening where maybe Dalinar is Honor, and he's like, okay, I clearly can't be my own champion now, or like something like, like we really don't know.
Oh, so you say that, and I totally think Taravangi is going to be his own champion, and I think it's going to be so good.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Little OP, but.
Yeah, but I think that's the point. Like, he'll be his own champion, but Dalinar won't know that Taravangian is now Odium.
Yeah,
and like that will be the trick he plays to win the contest.
Don't want that to happen because it would be bad for Team Honor.
I mean, I think everything with Taravangian is very bad for Team Honor, I would say.
Yeah.
And I'm stressed just thinking about it. It's like, oh, this isn't going to go well. How is Brandon going to write a satisfying conclusion when I just see so many ways this to go not great? I have no idea. So there's a ton of relationship stuff that we also need to talk about. And I think the most natural one to start with is the one that we didn't see on screen. It's the one with Lin. That Kaladin dated Lin. And I totally believe that did not go super great. Because Kaladin's not in a great spot for dating right now.
I feel bad for both of them, like just from the interaction they have at the beginning, where like Lin clearly was the one to break up with Kaladin and is still like trying to be supportive of him in the scene at Hearthstone, but Kaladin has some salty vibes there.
Kaladin not letting something go? That sounds very out of character for him.
Yeah, but it's like Lin needed to break up with Kaladin like for her own sake.
Yeah.
Because like Kaladin was not in a position to be in a relationship.
Yeah. I feel like if they had been at different points in their life, then they could have worked. Yeah. Because they seem they had a bit of chemistry, I think. Maybe.
We didn't really see.
Most of it was off screen.
I don't know if I ever would say I saw chemistry between them, but sure, Brandon.
Yeah, that was my complaint. Is I just like, I don't care. I don't buy it. Like they didn't really like make it seem like Kaladin was obviously upset. We didn't really see any sort of hint of chemistry. There's a point where he could see now that they'd both grown from it, and I'm like, in what way have you grown from this, Kaladin? Like name a thing that it seems like a bit of character development that happened off screen that you got from your relationship with Lin. Because
he thought Lin was a potential partner, and now he doesn't. And that is character growth off screen.
That is a 0.1 degree growth.
Yeah, like
technically still growth.
Yeah. I think that's difficult for Brandon to do because I think the main reason he's doing that is just to show time has passed, right? And if you set up a big chemistry in Oathbringer and then they just broke up off screen, people would have been furious. So I think the best case scenario is like, I don't really care, right? Like, because you really don't want that other situation to just have that all be chemistry and then just like, oh, we dealt with it off screen.
Yeah, I just don't think there should be a character development thing that our reaction to is, it didn't really seem like why is it in there?
Sure.
All of our reaction is meh.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of in there to show it's like Kaladin's life sucks.
And by the way, he's great. Like that just
yeah. I mean, not much more to say on Lin, but the relationship with Syl in this book has definitely deepened. Well, in many respects, like Syl is much more of her own character now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Great to have a Syl interlude. Great to have Syl fetch Adolin for that scene in the bar, by the way. That was Syl.
Mm-hmm. I love Spren interacting with people who are not their Radiants. I want more of it. I'm like, these are their own people that exist, and they should be making human friends and hanging out with other Spren.
She's always talking about how she's going and seeing other people and talking to other people. So it's nice, like getting that one interlude is like cool. She can go further away from Kaladin now, and so she's spread out a bit. She's
a specific chapter icon.
And I like her conversation with Dalinar and like her struggling to try and understand what Kaladin's going through, because that is a very real and common thing that people have to deal with when their loved ones have depression or other issues.
It's tough.
And like she just wants to empathize and she doesn't know how.
Yeah. And she very much becomes Kaladin's partner in this. Like, she's not just his fairy companion anymore. It's like they go through everything together. And she does confront the darkness in her own past.
She has a hint of that too.
Dealt with.
Mm-hmm.
He's Kaladin's
like
support character.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. I like that Kaladin was able to offer support in return finally too, because like there's a really good scene where Syl is like very down and Kaladin kind of is like, doesn't like you, and then she kind of puts on a whole happy face and is like,
it's like, no,
like everything's good, like I'm here to support you, and he's like, you don't have to do that, you know.
I'm really worried about you, actually.
And the scene after the Tien scene when they're falling and Syl says like, I don't know what to do, I don't know the words, and Kaladin says, don't worry, I do.
That is so good. That is so good.
Because all along it's like she's been saying like, I can't tell you the words, even the ones she knows. But now it's like he's getting to that point before her.
Yeah. But she's crushed by Teft too. Like she loves Teft as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And like really honestly, Syl gets pretty crushed in this book of just like the strain of the sibling being taken and just that pressure on the bond itself, like, is really hard on her. And like there's a part where she like just vanishes for a while and Kaladin's like, I don't know where she is, and then she just comes back
because they get separated when they're at the bottom. And so it's like she can't find him again because she's gone stupid until he comes back down, gets within range, and then like she's like, oh wait, I'm Syl. I need to go find Kaladin.
I would love like more of that of Syl.
And that must be really hard to have your sapience, your being tied to someone else, and like you really have to rely on that other person and like not have independence in the way that humans do in the books. So particularly after Words of Radiance and everything that happened between Kaladin and Syl there, and the almost breaking of their bond, and to have this happen again, even if it's not in the same manner, must have been really hard for Syl to have to regress back to that state a second time.
Yeah.
It is pretty unfair that like the Nahel's friends specifically, just, you know, Void's friend, you're good, but like if they want to go to the physical realm, they've got to be bonded.
Yeah, that is
all of them though, because the Reachers seem to be fine. There's one of Venli's scenes, like they don't seem to be suffering anywhere near as much as the other Nahel bonded Spren that come through.
I think it's because they are preparing to bond with Venli's squires, and if they're in that position, they can stick around long. Kind of like how Yunfa was around for months, even though his Radiant was dead.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
In Oathbringer, we see like I'm pretty sure it's Venderana and leading like a group of younger with honor Spren that are watching the trainees. Like, so Syl was just in the physical realm for so long before finding Kaladin. But I do think it's across the board they have the same issue, unless you're a bondsmith Spren, because They're special.
Hey, they're weird. Yeah.
You're a shard, basically.
Yeah. I know you there were some people talking in the Ishar episode about Syl. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I was going to say the mind thing where Syl's mind intelligence are based on her relationship with Kaladin is the thing that makes me go, I'm not a fan of Syladin as it is now.
Yeah, that is a little yikes.
Yeah, I'm like, I just don't think that's a good idea. Which is, yeah.
I do wonder, because Syl seems to be coming more into the physical realm just by herself in this book, like what she can do with changing her colors. And I wonder if it will get to the point where she doesn't need that bond anymore, but also if this is sort of tied to the uncapped oaths and the abilities that Honor was trying to suppress, and whether this is a bad thing in a way. But I think like if she fully comes into the physical realm, then I'm the same. Like the thing about Syladin that I'm not fully on board with is the fact that she is reliant on him. And that's a weird power differential that I'm not super there for. Totally fine for other people to be, but just not for me. But if she is her own person and independent in her own right from Kaladin, that's a whole different ballgame.
That's true.
Exactly. If she fully comes into the physical or Kaladin moves into the cognitive, we've got two different ways this can happen. It's
yeah, that's the thing. Like Kaladin going into the cognitive, also like the same thing. Like she is no longer reliant on him to exist.
Yeah.
I'm a long-standing, not a huge fan of Syladin. Somewhat openly. I do like that she is less childlike now. That was a huge thing that I was not a fan of in the first books, where she was just kind of like, the world is new to me, and now she is her own person completely, and
she's remembering her old memories. She's and it's. I was gonna say, this is the book that made me kind of go, okay, now I can see Syladin. Now I can see where the Syladinship is coming from. But before I was kind of like, yeah, but now I'm like, okay, fair enough.
Especially because like they are like helping each other with their own issues.
Yeah, it's because it's become not just her looking after him, but him looking after her a bit more as well.
It feels less codependent than it was before.
Yeah.
And there's a part of me that's like, in a story structure way, if we were going to have Kaladin have a romantic interest, he just I was like, well, if we were going to have to develop it at some point, and this is a book where he spends a lot of time with one female person, like intense bonding time, and I'm like, well, like I don't see it. It's not what I'm hoping for. I've only gotten platonic like friendship vibes myself from that, but it could be where Brandon's going. I think she can come fully into the physical realm in the fifth ideal, by the way. Like, I think she'll at least be able to interact with Kaladin when she gets there. That's just my kind of crack opinion. But
because remember when she's a full size like Spren in Way of Kings? Remember that? Like that? We've not got any of that since. Where she's just like
she does it a couple times.
We get it once or twice.
She does it. When Kaladin is about to like fly into the sky when he's practicing his powers, and she's like trying to coax him out to like reveal everybody, she's full sized in that scene.
Oh, okay.
It's just she doesn't prefer to do it. Fenderana likes to be full size.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm like Fenderana like is always full size. Like she doesn't do any real shape shifting. It's just personal preference of the Spren.
Yeah, unfortunately for Fenderana, but she didn't like being a ribbon of light way more than being a person standing there.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, but I don't like Syladin. I just don't. I don't think Fifth Ideal pulls the Spren into the physical realm like how Ishar is doing. Like it's still like they're still going
not
to be
like how Ishar's doing.
Not how Ishar's doing it.
Yeah,
not the results yet.
I don't think fundamentally. Like she's not going to be fully in the physical realm, according to the Nihil bond process. Like I just don't think that's how that bond works.
I guess is Kaladin fully in the physical realm? Like she'll still have her her components in the cognitive realm. But, you know, I think she's going to be able to do a lot that we haven't been able to see.
Yeah, it's like I definitely believe her being able to do more. It's just she's still going to be a primarily cognitive creature. Like she's still going to be weird wisp made of stormlight, vague hologram thing.
Oh yeah, I don't think she's going to turn into an Alethi girl.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not like that. I think she'll be like Syl, and she's like, I can pick up things now. You know?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I totally buy that. Yeah.
By the way, something you just said, David, about if she's fully in the physical realm, will she also be in the cognitive realm like humans are? They have a physical cognitive, and then I'm like, I wonder if that's what's missing from Ishar's experiments. He brings the spread in from the cognitive realm, and then they don't have a cognitive aspect anymore, and that's kind of like
that's kind of
why they don't work.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to think on this one.
That's definitely an interesting thing for us to discuss at a later time, I think.
Yes.
Because the Spren, like the Hellborn Spren, do still have like their form in the cognitive at the same time that they are in the physical. Because we see that with Shallan when she's soul casting. Like Patton turns up in the cognitive as his
that's true.
normal self, even though he's still in the physical at that point.
That's true.
I wonder how this just ties to Shardblades, which this is a huge digression and not about Kaladin. So I'm just going to table that thought and because like Deadeye's like vanished.
It's like, where did they go? What did they do?
Oh yeah. And then there's the whole where was Syl when Kaladin mostly killed her, but wasn't a blade?
I'm not even sure Brandon specifically knows the answer to that. I'm going to be honest. So. Yeah. Let's move on to Leshwi. Leshwi and Kaladin definitely have some chemistry in this book.
Yeah. This is my number one ship. This is out of all. This is my one of my favorite.
I was not expecting it, but damn, as soon as it like turned up on page, I was like, well, okay then.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of
enemies to lovers. Like it's a tried and true fanfic trope.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they do the scene where one of them pushes the other against the wall and like there's like a kiss. The
fanfic writes itself, really.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, I don't know how much Brandon is aware of common fanfic tropes. And so this could all just be a complete accident on his part. But it's like, Brandon, you're making promises here.
Yeah, like we did have the whole queer episode about how Brandon keeps accidentally writing queer like relationships. So I could definitely see that he doesn't realize what he's doing here, but definitely doing it.
Like it's when I say it's like my number one ship, it's one of those things where it's like it's my favorite because I think they go well together. I don't think it's actually going to happen.
Okay.
Like how much I like a ship and how much I think it's going to like are two different metrics.
Oh yeah.
And because there's the whole for whether it'll actually happen or not. You've got the whole immortal being and non-immortal being, which even Tolkien, like the guy who not invented fantasy, seminal fiction of fantasy was like, yeah, mortal beings and immortal beings, they shouldn't date, and he had Eowyn give up her immortality. So,
Arwen,
sorry, not Eowyn. Yeah, Arwen.
That would technically be an argument against Cíladin as well.
That would also be an argument against Cíladin as well, yeah.
That typically doesn't work great. Yeah, I mean, I like the ship. Obviously, like liking the ship is different from canonicity. Like,
but it'd be so interesting.
It would be interesting.
It would be.
It really would be.
Particularly because Leshwi did defect in the end. Yeah. And
exactly.
Maybe she hasn't gone to the side of the Radiance, but she's certainly not on Odium's side anymore. And because did she go to the listener camp at the end?
She did.
Yeah.
Yes, we just don't see them arrive there.
Yeah.
But that's where she's going.
Okay. So she's still going to be around, and there very much could be more interactions right there.
Mm-hmm. And maybe I'm just totally wrong. I feel like she has to want to get free of Odium even more fully in some way, because she's got a really good line where she's like, "My soul has too long not been my own."
Yeah,
and
talking
I feel like
about
she
a new bond.
She kind of needs in some way, I want her to get free of odium somehow. I don't know how that's possible.
Ooh, that
or
would
she
be
can
good.
kind of just become a mortal person again. But I feel like she would like to not. Like, she's always wanted to give it up to the singers in the end. And I feel like I could see Leshwi choosing to become mortal again if she potentially could find a way to do that.
Yeah.
Hook up with Ishar.
That does tie in, going back to Shardcast, like what is Ishar's plan with the whole Spren thing? And one of the things we discussed was like cognitive shadows becoming mortal again.
Yeah.
That would work for Fused as well, theoretically.
That would be nice to have Leshwi like be healed in that way, but that would be difficult to do.
In the beginning of part 1 of Rhythm of War, Kaladin does get called out for showing honor to the Shanaeum.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like having those rules of engagement, and Dalinar is like not a fan of that. And I wonder if Odium is not a fan of the Shanaeum doing that on their end, but that is who Leshwi and her people are. And the nice synergy of these two groups are doing the fight their way, regardless of what their superiors want.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I would definitely say that I feel like Odium would not be a fan of the Shanaeum pulling punches.
Yeah. I doubt that. But
yeah.
Leshwi is great in this book. Love the part where she's like, "Don't worry, voice. I know what to do." Like Leshwi, excellent. I don't know how much we're going to see Leshwi in book 5, or the listeners. Honestly, I have no idea where that's going. But
I'm really
like to see something,
because it's like the scene where Venli reveals herself to Leshwi, and like Leshwi grabs her face, and you're like, "Oh no, this is so bad." And it's like, they've forgiven us.
Oh,
it's like, do you know this Honor's friend? Like, she was my friend. It's like,
we just got to get someone to revive those dead eyes.
I was gonna say, I would love to see Leshwi give up her fusedness and like lose her gravitation surge, then she can bond that healed Honor's friend that was her friend, and they can make up, and then
that would be so good.
This could be a Windrunner.
That would be great.
She'd take a Windrunner form, you know.
It's like, Brandon, this is the best option. I don't know what you have planned. Do this instead.
Yeah, he's totally listening.
He watches all of these.
Definitely.
Yes. I think we got to talk about relationships. I don't know how deep we can go into this, but Adolin, Shallan, and Kaladin. Adolin and Kaladin have great chemistry, and I'd still be down for them being a poly couple together. That'd be good. With Adolin, like Kaladin and Shallan don't get together, but Adolin is the center of that.
I think they both need Adolin as the counterpoint to help them from just spiraling in on themselves and feeding each other. And like I think there is a lot of ASK poly relationship shippers out there now, because a lot of people that share that view that together they're all really good. Like they really complement and complete each other. It's just when it's like just two of them, there might be problems. So I very much have seen like the shipper in me has always seen the relationship between Adolin and Kaladin, like literally from the beginning, where they don't even know each other and he's calling him Bridge Boy already. It's like, Brandon, you've started it. And then he just builds on top of it. And it goes all the way through to Rhythm of War, where it's just still there. Like their bond, their companionship is firstly very good as a friendship. Like I do think that Brandon has built this very well in a platonic male friendship, and that is really good to see in a book. There could always be romance there as well. Could always just put that in.
Too bad Kaladin is a stick in the mud and wouldn't go for.
Yes, there is that tweet of whether the three of them could be poly, and Adolin and Shallan would be down for it. But Kaladin was, I think Brennan actually used the word prude, like too much of a prude for it.
Yeah.
But I read that as he would be too much of a prude for a poly relationship, not necessarily
One-on-one.
not a straight relationship.
Definitely.
To me, that was confirmation, even though it's not like canon confirmation, that both Adolin and Kaladin are at least bisexual. And I'm very pleased with this. Welcome to Queercast number 2.
Yep. I do hope Adolin and Shallan can like join up with Szeth and Kaladin for that expedition. Like Takar is close-ish to, I mean, not really that close to Shinovar, but like, I don't know. I mean, they do. Ishar has to go through the cognitive realm, right? And you know, Ishar
they need to run away from Ishar, you know.
Yeah.
And...
Well, they could be chasing him down. So I really want more of Adolin, Shallan, and Kaladin in Book 5. I think we need it. Them being split up, it's like, oh, it makes sense, but I want to see some banter here.
I didn't realize how much I liked the three of them as a trio until they'd been split up, and I was like, oh no, we only have one book left.
Yeah.
But
and
I'm really hopeful for the next book that, in the same way that Kaladin got to support Syl a little bit, that Kaladin will be able to support Adolin a little bit, just because he is still really wrestling with that anger with his father, and a lot. Like, he's still got his own stuff going on, and he does a lot of pushing Kaladin up, and I think he could use a hand back every now and again.
Kaladin had his book of dealing with his relationship with his father. Now he has all the experience and can help Adolin.
And plus, Kaladin knows Dalinar really well. We didn't mention it earlier, but Lirin not the best dad for Kaladin, and Dalinar not the best dad for Adolin. But just switch those around, then you're set. Or at least Dalinar. Dalinar is good dad to Kaladin. So that would be a good thing to do. I just think one of them's gonna die in the next book. I don't know who. It's like there's a Kaladin argument, there's an Adolin argument.
It can't be Adolin. Like Brandon would lose all of his fans.
One of the four will die.
The fourth being Dalinar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Of those four, we're gonna lose one.
Yes, we are.
I would say.
I guarantee it.
Yeah.
For sure.
I know who I would prefer to die.
Who?
Dalinar. He's the one I care about
Dalinar.
the least.
Yeah.
No. Dalinar's a great character.
I can't even.
And I'm gonna leave it at that.
I mean, well, that's why back 5, Kaladin's gonna be the new Dalinar figure in the Radiance. So like it does fit pretty well. It does. Yeah. I mean, Dalinar could be removed as a main character and still rampages around as fused. So it's always possible.
In terms of relationships, just to continue the ASK discussion, but instead looking at like the Kaladin Shallan side of things. Like, of course, Oathbringer was the love triangle where Shallan made her choice and went with Adolin and not Kaladin. But I really liked in Rhythm of War that the friendship between them seems to have really built up. And they're like, at least in the tavern scene, I didn't get any overtones of romance or romantic feelings from either of them.
True.
They were just friends, and they were like good friends and close friends that could hang out together and support each other just by sitting there with each other. And that was just very nice to see, because another thing that's often lacking in media and also Brandon's books as well is just male-female friendships without it being a relationship. Yeah. So I really want to see them all together again as well, because I want to see more of that friendship.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. One last ship, Moash. It wouldn't be a healthy relationship, that's for sure, and no one would say that it would, but I'm interested to see where they go next.
I know there's a lot of discourse at the moment around Moash and the story of the lower class and upper class and just class relations in general. And a lot of it ties in to Moash Kaladin as well, and how like what they bonded over was the fact that they both went through really terrible times because they were dark eyes, because they were of the lower class compared to the people around them, and then how their stories went in different directions, even though they started at a similar point. But I've seen a lot around recently, and there's some very good posts out there going through it much better than I could ever explain it, about why they do work together, whether it's like in canon and how like their stories are going to continue progressing,
right, or
other things that could be explored and like potential like redemption and forgiveness arcs that could be there between them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I will say that I'm pretty certain that if Moash does not make it to the next book, he will not die at Kaladin's hand. Like, I don't think Kaladin has that interest in that sort of vengeance.
Yeah, I don't think Kaladin would be capable of that. Like, tying back into the Lirin discussion, like, I do think Kaladin does have his limits as well. And killing Moash would be past his limits.
I think it's far more likely he'll bring him back from the point he's at now. Like, Moash trying to convert Kaladin all of Rhythm of War, and then in the next book, Kaladin bringing Moash back onto their side would be a very good way of kind of reversing that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Difficult to do, but Brandon can do it if he wants to focus on it.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. We'll see. No one knows what's going to happen to Moash.
Yeah.
No, we really don't. No.
And I feel like there has to be something in the next book, right? Like, Brandon has set Moash up as the foil to Kaladin, and there needs to be something that comes to head in the next book. Yeah. It's just which direction Brandon wants to go with it, and the relationship that he wants those two characters to have in canon and where it ends up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it has to come to a head. There has to be some sort of resolution in the next book, for sure. So, looking towards the future, we talked about some future stuff like the Fifth Oath, but if Kaladin gets with someone, who do we think he would get with, canonically?
Tara.
This is tough. Tara?
She's still an Earth-Hero.
I agree. I think she's an Earth-Hero.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I feel like the foreshadowing for Tara is there.
Yeah.
He should end up with Leshwi. I'm just going to say that. He should end up with Leshwi. I think it's probably going to be Tara.
Yeah. Kim and Tara, they broke up because of the circumstances they were in. They're not in those circumstances anymore. You know.
It's just tricky because we don't really see a lot of what their relationship was like when it was good. We don't see any of that.
We literally have one scene, and it's their breakup.
Yeah.
I do think that there was an aspect of their breakup and their relationship and Tara's decision to go to Morn's Vault that was similar to Kaladin and Lynn, where it's what she needed to do because there was only so much that she could put into the relationship. Because they talk about how, like, Kaladin was so hyper-focused after Tien's death, and like she was the one who pulled him out of that, but that's also a lot, and it might have just hit the point where she couldn't continue doing that or continue putting Kaladin before herself so constantly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I was a little sarcastic when I said Tara, just because I kind of don't know the answer.
Right.
But
yeah,
I will say that I think my current belief is that we will not see a major romantic arc with Kaladin in book 5, and that we might see the seeds. If Kaladin survives, we'll see the seeds of something, potentially Tara if she's actually an Earth-Hero. And then in like 50, we'll do the jump, and in 15 years, Kaladin will be in a stable relationship, and we just probably won't experience most of that. But there's just not enough time. We have to find Badu Mishram. There's no time for a 10-day whirlwind romance.
I agree with that. Yeah,
I think the other canonical option that is there is Laurel, because she's now at Irithiru and Roshun is dead, and they did have that was also like seeded when they were children, and I could see them reconnecting and coming back together. I personally just don't want Kaladin to end up in a romantic relationship. I would much prefer him to just like have a bunch of friendships, and because I think that's what he more needs than a romantic partner, at least now. But I could see Laurel.
Yeah, I
forgot about that.
I don't like Laurel just because I feel like him. He went back to Hearthstone. He went back to childhood, and he'd seen she moved on, and he moved. I feel like he's moved on, and like going back would be almost regressing to that kind of the person he was when he was a child, kind of thing. Kind of thing. You know what I mean? I really don't like it.
If you had asked me before we got Oathbringer, Laurel probably would have been higher on my list. But once we got to see adult Laurel, she wasn't quite how I was expecting, because she is very standoffish with Kaladin. Like, and so there aren't the warm feelings that I was expecting. So now it kind of soured me on that potential relationship.
Even if they don't get together, I really want to see them interact some more. Like, even if it's not, I don't know if it'd be romantic, because like it does seem like they kind of got past it, but I would like to see them interact.
It's like I wanted to see Laurel interact with Shallan and Adolin as this. I was his friend as a kid. It's like you're friends with him as an adult, and the things she knows that they don't. Because like she knew him when he had Tien. They didn't.
Certainly,
I don't know if they know about Tien. I don't know how much he's shared. Because like,
good point.
I definitely imagined a scene where it's like she had like some offhand reference to Tien, and they're like, "Who is that?" And
I thought he told Shallan about Tien in the
he
chasms.
probably did, and I just blocked it out of my memory because I had this fond idea for it.
That's bad. But Adolin, I have no idea. I would like to believe that he has referenced his brother to Adolin.
He told Captain Rock. I feel like I feel like he probably has.
Yeah, that's true.
But I liked Laurel and Oathbringer, actually. I kind of liked that she was like, "Oh, were you going to come back and save me?" Like, sorry, I was doing my own thing.
Yeah, I did really like that.
She's great how she is. It's just not what I was anticipating.
Absolutely not.
But
I loved her. Even in Rhythm of War, I was like, I want to see more of her, even if she's just interacting with other people.
Yeah.
And upon reading Way of Kings, who would have guessed that Kaladin ends up as the adopted father of Roshun's children in the future, potentially, if they get together? Like, that's a pretty wild twist right there.
That would be pretty funny. Does she doesn't have children currently, does she?
She has twins.
She has
two quiet twins. Yeah.
Huh. I missed that bit.
Yeah. It's a blink and you miss it line, because never really referenced, but yeah, she has kids.
I do agree. I don't think we'll see a lot of this in book 5, because there's just not going to be time. Like if we're getting any, I mean, Brandon said Renarin and R'lain, he's going to get it in the next book. I don't think we're going to have time for anything else, any new romances. Yeah, but
it depends how Brandon does the next book, though, because he's talked about, like, we know the 10 days, but it's the question of, is that the whole book?
Right.
Or is that part of the book?
But really, we do need to ship Kaladin with friendship, really. Like, he does need that, because he's probably better in a relationship after Rhythm of War. I don't know if he's good or, like, ready for romantic relationship, but it's definitely an improvement. But he needs friends. He needs friends. He very much does.
Needs that support network, you know?
He needs a support network to begin with.
Yeah.
Well, he has that. He just needs to use them.
Yeah, he needs to use the
on screen.
Like, if he can connect more with, like, the other members of Bridge 4 as well, like, they're his friends, but there's still this gulf between them because of the way they see him. And then it always, particularly after everything that happens with Moash, and Moash was kind of his closest friend that saw him on the same level, it always does feel like Kaladin holds a lot of the other people at arm's length as well. It's like, these are my friends, but they're also the people that I command. But if he steps back from the commanding role, then goddammit, Kaladin, just like be friends with your friends.
And maybe the fact that he has stopped feeling like he has that responsibility to protect them will also help with that. And that he's like, you know what, I'm not, because you can't help but see yourself in a superior way if you are
the protector.
If you're the protector, you know?
Yeah.
But he almost skipped Scar's wedding, so he needs to be a better friend to them too.
Yeah, that can confirm that he should do that. Do we have any other predictions for the future? I think it's real hard to see exactly how Kaladin's character will go in the next book because he progressed so much in this one.
Yeah.
I don't know if we'll see that much more progression from him in the next book, except probably the Fifth Oath. But I think at this point, we're going to kind of like coast on the point that Kaladin's at over the next book.
Like there is, as helped by the death of Jessie and the fact that presumably there's gonna be a new Windrunner Herald. I'll just throw it out there, and I could see it being Kaladin, but I also just don't think that him being tortured on Braze is gonna be like where I see like I'm like I don't really. That's not gonna help anything.
Well, yeah, and even like, I mean, it would solve the issue about man, we had the character arc where the mental health was fixed. It's like, let's get tortured on Braze. Let's get some new problems here and emotional suffering. Like, see,
Kaladin's already gone through that, so I'm sure he would be a pro on knowing how to navigate Braze at this point.
Oh.
Oof.
Sorry, that was real dark.
Yeah. But, I mean, it is plausible, though. But that the people who did not like Rhythm of War would probably not like that plotline of, hey, what if we get torture Kaladin for a long time, brutally? It's like, oof.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah, it's hard to say beyond the predictions I have made. It's so hard to say what's going to happen next book. You know, just because we don't know whether the Champions is going to be the final part 5, or whether it's going to be
like it's part 3
part
or something.
1 or part 3. You know,
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be part 1, but
no, it's just it's so hard to predict the next book. So.
I guess I think it's going to be mostly the whole book will be the 10 days because Brandon made a comment about having made his timeline stuff tricky by stuff he set up in book 4. And I'm
when he was talking, this is right at Rhythm of War's release where like Karen wanted an additional day and Brandon was like, no, I do not want an additional day. And then Karen went through the timeline and Brandon's like, oh, maybe we should give you an additional day. Because the end of Rhythm of War is crazy, timeline-wise. But I do think most of the book's going to be the Contest of Champions. And I could imagine that like part 5 of the book, kind of like Way of Kings, part 5 is not really the climax. It's really an extended epilogue in a sense. Yeah. And I feel like this book would have even larger extended epilogue given that it's closing things up. And so I could see that.
It's just, we know book 5 is going to be closer to Words of Radiance and Oathbringer, where the trilogy is all broken up by parts rather than Way of Kings and Rhythm of War, where they were
different plotting structure. That's right. It's more the Words of Radiance style.
So it's like there's 2 parts that are a book and then 1 part that is a book.
Yeah.
2 parts that are 2 books.
Yeah.
And then a book.
I think
everyone's
like, where is the singular book? Is it part 1, part 3, or part 5?
Oh yeah. I'm really excited though. I'm really excited for Lost Metal as well, but I'm like, when you start talking about Stormlight 5, I was like, that's gonna be crazy. I think it's gonna be my fave. I don't think it's going to end well for some people, but oh man, I'm ready to love that book. Which maybe is not a good place for me.
This is the biggest ending Brendan's ever written.
Yeah.
No pressure.
No pressure.
No pressure.
Oof.
It's okay. He's got Lost Metal first to like get back into the mindset of doing the ending of a series.
It's been a while.
And Skyward 5 4. Skyward 4.
There better not be a Skyward 5.
Stop adding books, Ben.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, he has a big string of endings, so let's hope it goes well.
Hopefully.
All right. Well, we have been blabbing a bunch, so I think it's time for Who's That Cosmere Character?
This character is from Roshar.
Menace, Tien,
Tom,
Raise.
Void in drag on a horse.
It's time for Who's That Cosmere Character? Caw.
Well, welcome to Who's That Cosmic Character, the game show where you, the listeners, send in 5 clues and a character to WTCC at 17shard.com, and then I read out the clues one at a time with these guys guessing at each clue, and if they get the character right, then they win, and if they don't, then they suck. So, this entry was sent in, and they opened the email with, "Hi guys, I'm Dennis. Just to clarify, I'm Spanish. So I don't know which one is it. Are you Dennis or are you Spanish?"
I liked it.
The first clue is this character is dead.
Tien.
Not Tien.
Don't make character guess.
I know.
Denth.
It's not Denth.
Ooh, okay.
Raise.
It's not Raise.
I know this character has a name. Is it the honor friend that was part of Ishar's experiment that is just super dead?
It is unfortunately not that honest friend. Why would we have their name?
Do we have their name?
The Stormfather names him.
That's
this honors friend.
Oh,
it has a V in it, I think.
Oh, I totally forgot that.
Gonna look it up after.
Okay.
Clue number 2. We do not see any direct interaction between this character and any other while they're alive.
Tanavast.
Not Tanavast.
Is it the guy Hoyd uses as a boat in Secret History?
Not the guy that Hoyd uses as a boat in Secret History.
He talks back to Hoyd.
Bodie McBoatface.
Bodie McBoatface, yes.
Yes, but we don't see him interact while he's alive.
Oh, fine.
Can you reread that second clue?
We do not see any direct interaction between this character and any other while they are alive.
Maya.
Not Maya. I like where your brain went, though.
Yeah.
My brain actually went to Testament, but I'm pretty sure Shallan directly interacts with Testament before the bond is broken. Because she yells at Testament at least.
We see the flashback of her doing that, yeah. So I think that would not satisfy.
I was gonna guess that. Now I don't have that guess. Okay.
I thought Tanavast was a really good guess. I gotta be real here. We have not seen them interact with anyone personally when they were alive.
I guess we'll just do some dead shards. Like, what about Aona?
It's not Aona.
I mean, good point.
It's like playing Hangman, where you're like, okay, let's go through all the vowels and get them out of the way.
Get through the shards.
Clue number 3. This character's notebook is a very important item.
And it's not Kalak. Oh, Alendi?
It's not Alendi.
Rashek.
It's not Rashek.
No, it's not Rashek's notebook. Why did I say that?
Curses!
Who has a notebook?
That really cuts down the amount.
It really does, and is dead.
Yeah, I feel like Ian's gonna get it. Like,
damn it! Why is it not Alendi? That's some BS right there.
Thank you for guessing that, because I was second.
No, I had to guess it quick before you could.
Dariz has a notebook, but she's very interactive,
very alive,
and very alive.
Yeah, very alive. Shallan's alive. Navani's alive.
I know they have notebooks. Yeah. I'm thinking of just like Coppermine pages. It's like, Yasna's alive. thought dead for a bit. But
What's the last clue?
This character's notebook is very important to them.
To them.
To the character.
Yes.
Oh.
Did I miss that bit out first time I said it?
No, maybe I
it's
just didn't focus.
comprehend it.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if Alendi's notebook is like super important to Alendi personally.
I like to think most people's notebooks are pretty important to them. That's why they're keeping a notebook, you know.
Mm-hmm. Like, it wasn't his times tables, it was his diary. He probably cared about that a little bit.
Hey, Brandon just didn't have the courage to show the times tables as epigraphs, okay?
I can just imagine Rashek being like, "Dear diary."
Is it?
I hate Alendi.
I hate Alendi. Is it Wendenfell, the steel runner that Palm pretends to be?
Wendenfell, the steel runner from
Okay.
That is a
Set as
self.
a self.
Who,
Is that who you were gonna guess?
Wasn't that
no,
Leshwi?
but
Leshwi. Yeah.
Leshwi. Okay, yeah.
is the name of the
that-
character.
yeah,
Grandma
Grandma
is
grandma.
Wax's grandmother.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I meant the dead steel runner.
It's not the dead steel runner.
Okay.
I know the answer.
Technically, we do see interact with other people.
I know the answer, I think.
Bands. Oh, you do?
Yeah, I think that's debatable.
Ian, have
No,
you gone
we
away
see her
with
in Bands of Morning prologue.
Oh, but see, I'm still on my Shadows of Self read, so I don't remember that.
Oh wait, is the one of the in? Sorry, we see the
Yeah.
steel runner in the.
I just
she
read
one of the-
specifically in the Bands of Morning prologue.
I never put that together. That
Yeah,
they're the
no,
same
it is
person.
actually her, which is kind of depressing when you just think, oh, yeah, she totally got murdered.
Yeah.
Rip.
Oh, I liked her as well. Oh.
Yeah.
I know.
Sucks for her.
I'm like ready for the next clue. I mean, unless it breaks my idea, but I think I got
I can't wait for your heart to just be broken by the next clue,
Yeah,
David.
yeah. Watch my face sink.
I'm going to guess Quan because I don't really have another guess.
It's not Quan. And to put David out of his misery, I'm going to give you the next clue, which I'm pretty sure is going to give it away. Clue number 4. This character has at least one animal companion.
I don't know.
Oh, is it First of the Sky? I
It is
think
First of the Sky. Yes.
Yeah, I'm hopeless on this. I don't know.
It's
Six of the
dead,
Dusk.
Trapper they find in Sixth of the Dusk.
Damn it.
And they find his
yeah.
notebook.
You're right.
This is-
I was gonna
yeah.
guess, just for posterity's sake, my guess was going to be Replar Innate, who I believe had a notebook full of information about his secret.
Oh, yeah,
deeds that
nice.
he had
And we
done.
did not see him at all when he was alive. That's nice.
That is true. That is true.
He's palmed the entire book.
Mhm.
Also, spoilers for Shadows of Self in this particular.
Wait. He's palmed the entire
The
book?
entire time, yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
But
So
Literally
That
the
doesn't make
entire
sense.
book. No.
It doesn't make
He's
sense
literally
because,
palmed
like-
the entire book.
but
I kept track
palms
when I did my.
other people at the same time.
Yeah.
Not
Well,
at
how
the
does that
exact
work?
same time.
Not
the
quite
exact
at the same time. I will
Fair time.
explain. I did careful
okay.
notes of Palm and who she was in my entire reread of Shadows. So I think I know. I think there's only one part that I'm confused about.
Zobel Tower is weird.
Yeah,
but I
Zobel
think
Tower is weird.
It's
That's the part that's
because
weird.
the set guy throws him off. He's following the wrong person, but she's there as the governor.
I guess, like, I've just gotten past the bit where I guess she must have just really quick changed and, like, hidden the bones or something. And then I guess Bryn must have been in on it the whole time. So I'm just
We
going
gotta
past the
remind
bit.
that he is in on it the whole time. Yeah,
Mhm.
he is on
okay.
it the whole time.
Which is
Yeah.
crazy.
It
I'm
is
like,
crazy.
what? Like, how did she get the, like, oh yeah, I'm his
I think we
I'm his
talked
bodyguard,
about
but
this
I'm
on a
actually,
stream that I'm like, how'd Drim get in on this? This is not related to anything, but yes, she
Yeah, because I remember that she was innate. It's just like, yeah, the bit that I've just gotten past, like, Wax has gone and, like, found her in a window, but Wade is actively guarding him. At the same
the reason
time.
why Palm knows the access codes is because Wax told Palm the access codes in the first scene.
If I remember, Wayne is protecting him as he's like practicing his speech in the other room, and he's like specifically like, "No one's allowed in the room whilst I'm practicing my speech."
Yeah.
Okay.
And Wayne figures it out. That the accent was slightly wrong at one point, yeah. And then
Okay.
yeah. Anyway, spoilers for Shadows of Self on this is that character one. Especially
Clue number
so.
5. Oh, yeah. Clue number 5 was this character died next to a tree, which is a great clue number 5.
Yeah, I mean, this character is not memorable to me, so they're dead
I would
to me.
not have remembered this, yeah.
Amusingly,
Even though I'm rereading Shadows of Self.
No, this was First of the Sun.
Oh, no. Now I'm just confused as to where we're at. What were you going to say, Ian?
I almost guessed the random one above who died and left the book so that they could start investigating the technology. I'm like, that character doesn't have a name.
Yeah.
I'm not confident Eric has read Six of the Dusk, so...
No, I did once. Okay. Yeah, so if it's a character there, I'm like, I don't know, is it Dusk? Is it Vathy? If not, I don't. Or Patch D. I remember Patch D. But other than that, I have no idea what any character is. Cool.
Nice.
I've got character number 2. They open their ear with, "Hi, my name is Nico and I'm new. Which one is it? Are you Nico or are you new?"
Wow, the joke was even better the second time, Ben.
So, this one was clue number 1. This character is deeply religious.
What does it mean to be deeply religious?
What does it mean to be deeply religious?
If you're a god, are you deeply religious?
I would probably say no to that.
Light song.
I feel like if you're, well, at least for most religions, you have to have faith to be religious.
But
Navani.
It's not Navani. Oh, I can't really comment on this discussion, otherwise I'll give things away.
Why don't you comment on it?
Say that again?
Is it Fafin?
It's not Fafin.
Oh, Fafin. Oh, yeah.
Faffing around.
Yeah, faffing around. Always faffing around.
It wasn't me that time.
Every time.
Every time.
We literally make this joke every single time.
I have a good next guess.
Father Omen.
It's say again?
Father Omen from Elantris.
No.
He's
Omen.
the head of the chapel in K.
Oh, okay.
And I'm not going to pronounce any of the Aeons. You can't make me.
Clue number 2. This character has no known powers.
Oh, that's.
I'm gonna guess
both helpful and not helpful.
Yeah.
I'm gonna guess. I actually think I'm gonna say his name wrong because I'm questioning that this is his name. Sanalin, the patriarch of the Karathi Church, who comes to visit the Elantris.
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
Not Sanalon, the patron of the Karathi Church.
Is it King Iadon?
It is not King Iadon.
Or just like, it's Cell. Watch it be an Emperor's Soul character.
Yeah. I mean, Iadon is deeply religious. It's the Jesker mysteries that involve human sacrifice, but he's still deeply religious.
Still religion.
Yeah, still religion, you know.
I'm going to continue on with my Era 2 guesses and go Steris.
It is not Steris. Okay, so clue number 3. This character is married.
That rules out what I was going to guess.
Is married?
That is what the clue says.
So
if
at least
your
not.
spouse is dead, are you still married?
I would say... Oh, actually, no. I don't know how to answer that.
Yeah.
Depends on the person.
Yeah.
It depends. Are we taking a copper mind look at this where we're outside of time, or are we looking at it within linear time?
Can't comment further without giving extra clues. This character is married, is what the clue says.
I imagine all that means is when we see them, they are alive. Like, so if they were in Era 1, then they, would probably be dead in Era 2, but like that's not really relevant.
Unless it's like, Spook, who probably is still alive. Also not the answer, because I don't think he's religious and he's got powers, but...
He was a religious figure himself. He was a survivor of flames.
He was deep
we already
in religion.
established gods are not deeply religious.
Probably.
But he believed in Kelsier.
That's true.
That was really important.
My guess is going to be Silence Montaigne.
It is not Silence Montaigne.
I convinced myself, and I'm guessing Spook.
It's not Spook.
But he has powers. He's always had powers.
Don't worry about it.
Not before he snapped, Eric.
But that doesn't mean anything.
I just like the idea.
He doesn't have powers. He has allomancy.
Thank you.
What?
It's a science.
No.
It's a science.
No, get out of here.
It's not a power. It's not magic. It's just science on Scadrial, you know.
Boo.
It's an ability and or attribute.
Religious, married, and unpowered. I feel like that should be a large set of people, but
I keep thinking of people for the first two clues, but then it's the is married. I'm like, yeah, but I don't know. All these people are not married in my head.
And King Dedalin's wife died.
It's deeply religious.
Was it deeply
Getting
religious?
Your daughter religious? Yeah.
Is it Serene?
It's not Serene. But those alls would have worked, yeah.
Yeah. God, I'm totally I have no idea. I gotta like come up with a guess. I'm gonna guess Evie, I guess.
It's not Evie. Clue number 4. This character is canonically female.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, like, I mean...
Oh, that won't work.
Is married.
I don't know what canonically female means. Like, that's what...
I think they're just
I feel
saying
like it's just trying to like circumvent the like is female in this case. Because it's not like Brandon's books have a lot of trans people in it.
Oh, that's true.
It's being a Khandra a power? Oh, no, but Palm has other powers.
I would say being a conjurer is a power.
Yeah. More back to Shadows of Self.
Hey.
I don't remember her name, but is it the Alethi singer that Venli that Venli is training that is married to her husband? Because Venli is all very weird. It's like they're not once mates, they're actually married, and that's a weird human thing.
Is it Mazish? Something like that?
I don't remember the name.
Yeah, I don't either.
Yeah, neither do I, but it's not them. So.
Okay.
Is it Yoxa? The tailor from Kolina?
It's not. Good guess.
Damn it.
I think I got a pass. I have just no idea.
I'm struggling too. I'm gonna guess Bavadin because
Why not?
Bavadin can be anything. Bavadin can have no powers.
Doesn't a shard inherently have powers?
Not if you create an avatar with no
powers.
But an avatar...
Yeah. Their body, they inhabit power the way we inhabit a body, Eric.
I mean, okay.
Do you have a body?
Like, it clears anything up. Yeah.
Do you have a body or are you a body? It's good.
Clue number 5. This character is from Taldane.
Oh, I'm just gonna I'm passing.
Oh, is it Ice?
It is Ice.
Oh yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. The trapped. Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
The canonically female.
The canonically female thing now makes sense.
Yeah. Because in prose, Ice was male, but now in the canonical version. Okay. So that was not a trick.
I like that.
That was not a trick clue. So I really actually appreciate that. But that when you get that without knowing the answer, like, what the hell does that mean? But it's like,
I like this one because for me, White Sand characters are always a roll of dice because I've not read it, so I don't know if any of these clues are true or not.
No. All those are true. All those are true. Yeah. No. All those clues are true. Yeah.
You could read the Wikipedia, not the Wikipedia article, the Compromise article.
Yeah.
I did flick through it, and it vaguely looked true. So.
Yeah, no, it is true. It is true.
Those articles are pretty well done. King of Hedaz went through and did pretty much all the White Sand articles, which really appreciated because, graphic novels are not fun to update on the top of mind.
Yeah. Yep. You can't just put it in an ebook and just word search it easily. It's the worst. Cool. Well, this was a really good episode talking about Kaladin. Shockingly, he's a main character, and we had a lot to talk about, and we could have gone longer, but the show must end at some point.
What do you mean? The show must go on.
The show must end because we have D&D.
Yeah, and that's where the show will go on, quite dramatically.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. But you guys won't see that because that's their personal D&D session. We will see you on 17shard.com for all your news, discussion, theories, and fun that you could ever want. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, SoundCloud. You can subscribe on YouTube, leave us a review on iTunes, and on Patreon. This will be coming out quite a bit later than when we're recording this, so I'm embarrassed that if you are one of our $10 Patreon tiers, I have not sent out the Who's That Cosmere character priority queue, and it's all my fault, but this will be the last episode that will not have priority Who's That Cosmere character. So you can go check out our Patreon. We have new tiers and stuff, so you can check that out if you want. And yeah, so we will see you all next time.
Bye.
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 Peace.
Caw.